When fears come in and flood your mind, when you think you're going down, when you think you're not going to make it, when you think you're going to fail God, or you've not measured up, when the enemy comes in and tells you that you're unworthy, you're unholy, you're no good, you'll never get it. What do you do when the enemy comes in like a flood? You see, the Lord raises up a standard. Let me show you what that standard is. Look at verse 1. The Lord reigneth. He is clothed with majesty. The Lord is clothed with strength, wherewith he hath girded himself. And he's put on his armor and set for battle. You have to have a clear vision that your Lord and Savior is standing by. His eyes on your flood. His eyes on you. You have to have a clear vision of what God has promised here. I've not ignored you. I see where you're at. I see what you're going through. Look at me. He says, I have girded myself. I put on my armor. I have my sword in hand. And then read what it says, verse 4. The Lord on high is mightier than the noise of many waters, yea, than the mighty waves of the sea. God says, get your eyes off the flood, get it on me. I've got my sword in hand. I am more powerful. I am mightier than all your floods. I'm bigger than all your fears. Get your eyes off your fears. He said, I've girded myself. That hit me. I could hardly sleep. I picture my Lord standing over me, sword in hand. He knows how far it can go and no farther. He'll come and slay the dragon in his time. He's saying, now you just stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. You just put your trust in me right now. Don't be afraid.
All right. Amen. Thanks, everybody, for coming to Proverbs Guys Ministries. We have a heck of a debate on schedule for you this evening. We have in the house the great Dr. Kent Hovind, the best creationist you've ever met, and some really cool guy named Jackson Rowe. Thank you guys for showing up. And I'm going to go ahead and let Doc have his first 5 minutes for an opening statement. And when Doc is finished, we'll hand it over to Jackson, and then they will jump into their dialogue. So, Dr. Hovind, you have the floor, sir.
Well, thank you, sir. It's an honor to be here today. Let me get my timer started here. And thank you, Jackson, for doing this again. I told you tonight we're going to get you converted. My name's Kent Hovind. I was been a Baptist preacher 50 years this May when I got ordained. And I taught high school science and math for 15 years. I believe the Bible is true. God made everything in 6 days, and evolution is the dumbest and most dangerous religion in the history of the world. It's nothing but a religion. You have to believe in evolution. Jackson and I both look at the same evidence. We both see fossils. I see evidence of a flood and rapid burial. He sees millions of years. He's wrong. I'm right. Anyway, thank you, Jackson, for doing this, okay? And thank you for coming to visit Dinosaur Adventureland. So we have a creation ministry here in Lenox, Alabama, straight north of Pensacola, called Dinosaur Adventureland. Come on by. You can see it. We'll put you up, feed you, house you, and take care of you and explain to you God made a wonderful creation, and he wants to be your personal friend. He wants to save you from we've all broken his laws, and we're guilty, and we're going to be in trouble. That's why Jesus died on that cross, and he wants to be your savior. If you don't want it, well, then you got to face God with your own problem and your own sin. I've got Jesus to pay for mine. Praise God. So I love fossils. We have a museum here. We teach all kinds of stuff on fossils. But the atheist will teach that there's a record, a fossil record. I say, guys, there's no such thing as a fossil record. There are fossils, but they're not a record. They don't talk. There's no date on them. You're assigning a number to them, and the fossil may not agree with you. He might know he lived at a different time. So anyway, I take the position that all the fossils, or probably nearly all of them, were formed in one big flood in the days of Noah. The Bible says at the end of time, the scoffers would be willingly ignorant of the creation and the flood. The flood with the tidal pumping, water going up, down, up, down. See, if the tide were not interrupted by banging into continents like it is today, the tide could go up and down 200 feet, be a 200-foot tidal change. if it were not interrupted, called a harmonic tide. Well, that means the water has to rush in and out of that bump. Every 6 hours, 12 and a half minutes, you get a tidal change. If you got the water coming up 200 feet and the water rushing in, depending on your latitude, at Lenox, Alabama, 31 degrees north, we're turning around right now 886 miles an hour. At the equator, it's over 1,000 miles an hour. At the North Pole, it's 0, okay? But the water's going sideways. And it's a sideways movement of the water in and out of that tidal bump that causes all the layers to form. All the layers that we see in the world were formed in 1 year, Noah's flood. They keep talking about the Jurassic Age and Cretaceous and Cenozoic and Holocene. It's baloney. It doesn't exist anywhere. There is no geologic column. That whole dumb idea was made up in 1830. It doesn't exist. All the layers exist, but they're not different ages. And we show that in my seminar. The layers all formed in 1 year during Noah's flood, and they contain bazillions of fossils. Nobody argues with that. There are fossils. There's no fossil record like this Google search says, but there are fossils. Fossils, animals that died in the flood, I believe. Many fully articulated. They weren't dragged around by scavengers. Whole school of fish fossilized by the Genesis flood. A whole school? 50-million-year-old fossil captures a swimming school of fish. How on earth could you capture a whole school of fish in the swimming position? I think maybe it was like rapid burial. If the water's coming up 200 feet and moving in at 800 or 900 miles an hour, it's going to make a layer of mud 50 feet thick in 5 seconds and bury all kinds of creatures. Fossilized fish captured mid-swim offers a glimpse to 50 million years ago. Carolyn, no, it doesn't. It offers a glimpse of rapid burial. Fish in the swimming position, fish giving birth, fish still eating their last meal, half in their mouth. I think all the fossils are clear evidence of rapid burial, like Noah's flood would do. Can anybody show me any place in the world today where fossils are forming in great numbers, or at all? A farm in England, unlikely source of a Jurassic jackpot. No such thing as a Jurassic period. A treasure trove of 183-million-year-old fossils on the outskirts of Gloucestershire in Cotswold. Okay, so you can read all about, there's no question fossils exist. Jackson and I both agree on that. He just takes a different approach and believes the dumb geologic column that he was taught, and it doesn't exist anywhere. Fossils are found all over the world. No question. We got all kinds of fossils. Come see our Dinosaur Adventureland, our Creation Museum, fossil clams in the closed position. Wow. What would possibly cause that? Like rapid burial? Fossil trilobites with the most complicated eye ever found in the world. One of the first creatures to evolve already had the most complicated eye. How did that happen? It didn't evolve. Evolution is dumb. Didn't happen. There's my 5 minutes. Thank you. Go ahead, Jackson.
All right. Thank you, Kent, again, for letting me come stay there for a week or so. It was actually pretty fun. It's I don't know what I expected, but it was a lot of fun. So, and I haven't gone back and like talked crap about it since then. So I've been true to my word and been consistent anyway. But fossils, yeah, one of my favorite topics. Let's go into what you said about there not being any periods. All right, fine. Let's grant that for a while. Let's just look at fossil sites, fossil assemblages, whatever you want to call them. Like when you look at one from what I would call the Carboniferous, okay. I was looking at one a few days ago. I was out looking for fossils. You find things like tabulate coral and horned coral and trace fossils that are only found in that layer or that area. But you don't find certain other things. And it's pretty consistent across the board with, I mean, it is consistent. There are certain fossils you're not going to find in a certain place, and there are certain fossils you probably are. And there's not really a great model that creationists have come up with that explains that order. Now you can say there's no fossil record, but I think whatever it is, a record of something, whether it's the Genesis flood or millions or billions of years. So I think in that respect, it has to be a record. But I can get into the some of my fossil finds later. This is just kind of a preliminary opening. We can go back and forth about that in a minute. But one of the things I want to talk about really quick, and I'll show some slides later, I brought this up in our last debate, were conodonts, which had little teeth. They weren't true teeth, but they were, for all intents and purposes, they were teeth. And they existed in the Cambrian. Let's grant there is a Cambrian. And they existed until the Triassic, from the Cambrian to the Triassic. Now, sharks have dermal denticles, they're scales, but they aren't found until the late Ordovician, which is the later after the Cambrian. So they're never found together in what's called the Cambrian fossil sites, like the Burgess Shale or the Maotian Formation in China. You find conodont teeth, but never shark scales. Now, if you go up higher, past the Triassic, you'll find shark scales everywhere, but you'll never find conodont teeth. And there's a brief period of overlap in between there, but why would they not be found together in a hydrologic sorting model or ecologic zonation model for that matter? And we'll go into more about that in a minute. And I don't know how much time that was, but we can go into open discussion now. I want to thank you again for having me there. And someday I'd like to visit again. It was actually very fun. People were nice. So
you're welcome anytime. Come on down. All right, Stephen, did you have questions, people writing in, or how's that work? Or
we're going to be taking the questions and marking them as we go through. So people in the comment section, make sure you keep posting them. But for now, we're going to let you and Jackson start your dialogue. You guys can begin asking each other questions or challenging each other's worldview. And Doc will let you take the floor first.
Well, there are hundreds of what are called fossil beds, where there are literally thousands and thousands of fossils all tangled up together. We know that the Earth is spinning, and at the equator it goes faster than the poles. This causes the oceans to swirl. In the northern hemisphere, above the equator, they swirl clockwise. In the southern hemisphere, they swirl counterclockwise. And these crazy ocean currents are swirling, because called the Coriolis effect, because the Earth is spinning. You flat earthers, I don't want to hear your explanation for that. Okay, so garbage patches are accumulating in the middle of these swirls. That's common in swirling water for the junk to collect in one spot. There are huge garbage patches. Let's see. You go out and camp out on them. Giant islands of floating trash. Okay? I mean, huge islands. And it's because of the ocean currents causing these things to collect in one spot. Oceanography, a gyre, a large system of circulating ocean surface currents, particularly those involved with large wind movements caused by the Coriolis effect, okay? And there are fossil beds with literally millions of fossils tangled up together, sometimes fully articulated, sometimes not. I think the best explanation of the fossil beds we find all over the world, here's a bunch of fossil beds, Wyoming, Montana, Colorado, Utah, Nevada, Arizona, is the flood. Let's see, here's the location of fossils. Fossils have been discovered, all these red dots. It's pretty well all over the United States. The flood is the best explanation for this. If there's large accumulations, that's in the middle of one of the gyres where they had a log jam of dead creatures floating around, and then they ended up finally getting buried in that locale. If there's in a swirling gyre of fossils of animals that are dead from Noah's flood, they would tend to sort a little bit by density. Clams would probably go to the bottom. They're already at the bottom when the flood starts. But if they're animals caught in one of these would be sorted by numerous factors besides age. It could be sorted based upon habitat, mobility, body density. Water, swirling water automatically separates things. We do this all the time where we tip this over and make 10 layers in a matter of minutes. So I wish you'd get off of this idea that this geologic column you've been taught is true. It's simply not. Bone beds, fossils, the thousands, millions sometimes die. And they're, let's see, cut down in their prime. Dinosaurs were thriving in Africa before the asteroid hit. How do you explain fully articulated skeletons? Anyway, I want to hear Jackson's interpretation of this, but my take is the flood is the best and only logical explanation for all the fossil beds that we find. Did they all decide to go to Wyoming to die in that spot? Why there, Jackson? What happened?
I think that was the site of the Western Interior Seaway at one time during the Cretaceous. But one thing I seized on the clams at the bottom. Clams are actually found all through strata, not just the bottom. I have kind of a picture to demonstrate this. Hang on a second. Let me open this.
You can go ahead and share it, and we'll put it up for you, Jackson.
Oh, hang on. I'm sharing the wrong thing. Hold on a second.
Also, feel free to concede at any point and come to Jesus, and Doc can go home early. That's an option too.
Amen. That's what I'm praying for.
All right, are you seeing this?
I don't see it.
Now you should.
Okay, we're seeing it now.
All right, you're on the screen, Jackson. Go.
This picture, this is about 8 feet of sediment here. This here is the Eocene of eastern Arkansas. This is actually a bunch of oyster fossils. I just call it the oyster bed. It's probably millions, hundreds of thousands of oysters. And it's only 8 feet below the ground. So how would this sort out in a flood like that? Let's just use that as our first thing. How would these heavy clams be so high up, relatively speaking?
Did you unshare it, Jackson?
Yeah, I
It
did. I
disappeared.
unshared it. Yeah, I did.
Okay.
Yeah, I unshared it.
I'm assuming that question is for me. I think during the flood, each tide going up and down is going to make water race in and out of that bump, and it's going to form new layers. Each time it's going to bury whatever's there to bury, and it might have buried a bunch of oysters at one time. 6 hours, 12 and a half minutes later, when the tide changes, it's going to make it bury a different layer. Between the tidal changes, it's calm for a few hours, and the sand and clay settle out. Jackson, you were here in our gravel pit. We have 7 layers of gravel that go from here to North Carolina, 500 miles. And all the rocks are smooth, rounded off. Rounded rocks in our gravel pit by the trillions probably. They go all the way to North Carolina. The tide going up and down, water rushing in and out of that bump, the tidal pumping, would form the rounded rocks, would roll them against each other to round them like a rock tumbler, and each tide would make a new layer. Whatever is available to be buried gets buried. And that could vary wildly in a worldwide flood. Generally, birds are found on the top because they're the last ones to die in a flood, and they have hollow feathers and hollow bones. I've got stuff on that here. The layers are sorted by each one probably in our gravel pit probably represents a different tide. Clams would generally be found at the bottom because they're already at the bottom. Clam shells are 1,000 times more dense than bird feathers. Bird feathers have a density of 0.0025. Clam density is 2.5. So 1,000 times more dense. I think the tidal pumping is the best explanation for why we have layers at all to begin with, and why each layer tends to contain a certain type of creature. And to find it above sea level like you did, well, the Bible says in Psalm 104, at the end of the flood, the mountains arose, the valleys sank down. I covered that on tonight's program on my show, Genesis Baptist Church, and I used this illustration. If the earth's crust were broken up like an eggshell, and we know it still is today, and one part lifts up, the water's going to run off to the low place. And this forms mountain ranges, and this forms ocean basins. And all the mountain ranges seem to follow the coastlines, or nearly all of them. So I think the Noah's flood is the best explanation for why we have fossils. Why do we have petrified clams on top of Mount Everest? Well, Mount Everest wasn't there during the flood. At the end of the flood, the mountains arose. Read Psalm 104. So I think the flood's the best explanation. Okay?
Well, I think a shallow sea was probably the explanation for that. But you don't only find the oysters in that oyster layer. It's mostly oysters. But you also find things like Venericardia clams, Turritella snails, tulip snails, and even, believe it or not, Basilosaurus whale fossils. So do all those things live in the same place? You're using kind of the ecologic zonation and hydrologic sorting here a little bit. So, in my experience, whales don't typically live on the seafloor with clams.
I didn't understand half of that. What was the question again?
Whales don't typically live on the seafloor, do they?
Whales what?
Don't typically live on the seafloor.
True, and I think people don't typically hang out with whales, so they're probably not going to be found fossilized together. I don't think I ever hung out with a whale. So I think if you find creatures, in piles of the similar kind, like whales together, you may not find any humans with them. It doesn't prove they didn't live at the same time. Maybe it proved they lived 4,000 miles away on land and the whales lived in the ocean. But the tidal pumping, water going up and down, is going to form all the layers sideways. The layers form from turbidity currents with sideways lateral movement of the water. Watch that video, Experiments in Stratification. Excellent video done at the Colorado State University campus. Done, 20 years ago. Great video by some French guy with a name this big. But watch that. It shows how the layers, multiple layers, form rapidly. And it's all done by the movement of the water, sideways. Fossilization. So why are whales found together? Why are whales found fossilized at all? They got buried. Do whales today fossilize? When they die, they fall to the bottom or everybody eats them? I bet you can't prove any whale in the last 50 years that's proven to fossilize that died in the last 50 years. You probably can't find one. We can find whale fossils. There's lots of them. But none are fossilizing today. They had to all be buried under special conditions, didn't they? Like Noah's flood would provide.
Sure, it takes special conditions. But it's not just any kind of whale I was talking about. It was Basilosaurus. And you don't never find baleen whales and Basilosaurus in that same layer. It's only Basilosaurus whales.
You probably never find camels and ostriches together either. What does that prove? You're seeing a fact that I don't know that your fact is correct. I don't know that they've never been found together. Okay, let's assume that's correct. What does that mean? You've come to one interpretation. Well, that means they lived at a different time. I could say, no, they lived in a different location. It's a pretty big world. Maybe they lived somewhere else.
Sure, I thought that might be an argument. So the Eocene site that I was digging at, the one where I had that picture of me, and a Carboniferous site where I found many other fossils. It's only about 100 miles away, but you never find two of the same anything in either one.
Well, I don't know that that's true. I don't think you've explored the whole world, and I don't think the whole world's been explored by everybody.
No, of course not. Of course not.
Right.
But
so you're assuming that what you have seen applies everywhere. I don't think you could prove that. In a court of law, you'd lose on that point right there. But we've got you were here. We got cows about half a mile away on our North 40. Mm-hmm. If we had a flood right now and we all got buried, I would not be found with the cows. Does that prove cows and humans did not live at the same time? Question. Well, have human fossils ever been found with cow fossils? Jackson?
Cow bones and human bones, I think have been found together. Yes.
But can you show me some documentation where human and cow fossils have been found together? And if you can't find any, that proves they did not live at the you time, doesn't it?
Well, we already know they lived at the same time. We don't really need.
Bingo! You're getting it. You're getting it.
But if you guys weren't in Dell weren't buried with the cows, the guy who lives to the north of you might be.
Sure. Well, the fact that we don't find animals together does not prove they did not live together. That's lousy logic. It could be a different location, could be they're buried at a different time. Same 1 year flood. Humans are generally smarter than animals. Well, some humans. And they would tend to avoid drowning till the last minute. They'd figure out a way to avoid drowning. Maybe they'd hang onto a raft or a log, and the cow couldn't do that. And so they would be buried in different layers based upon how smart they are, based upon their intelligence, be able to avoid drowning. That's one option. But I think the fact that we don't find them together is not proof they weren't alive at the same time on the whole planet. It's just that location. If everything in the world today, if everything died in the world today and was covered in mud, we probably would not find cows with alligators. They don't live in the same zone. They live in they're both alive at the same time. But your whole logic is based upon a real faulty premise that because we don't find them together, therefore they didn't live together. Think about that. It could be they're living 50 miles away or 500 miles away, or they drowned last. Or maybe part of the earth was submerged for a few weeks and the crust of the earth is flexing up and down. One part's underwater for a few weeks, then it's above water. Then it's below water and above water. We don't know. We'll see the video of the flood when we get to heaven. But I think the crust of the earth, we know it's busted up like an eggshell. The flexing of the crust up and down makes the water run back and forth in addition to the moon, making the tides. You also get the flexing of the crust, and you're going to get things buried all crazy ways. Fossils are found all over the place, all over the world. Even Antarctica, they find fossils. So they don't live down there now. North Pole, up Arctic Circle, they find frozen camels. They don't live up there. How do you explain camels at the North Pole or up in the northern regions?
Like Eocene age camels? I'm not sure about
There's no
camels.
such thing as the Eocene layer. I don't buy into your geologic column. It doesn't exist anywhere. I keep pointing that out. You guys trust that geologic column. I'll show you here.
Well, it's not necessarily the column, like in any one place. It's just the layer I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I
keep asking. I never get an answer. They claim the layers are different ages. Where's the material coming from? Is it outer space? If the Eocene era is 55 million years old and the Holocene era is only 10,000 years old, where was all the Holocene dirt hanging out for 55 million years?
All the material has pretty much been on Earth since the beginning. It's just the isotopic ratios of the material is changing back and forth. And erosion and deposition is putting different places sometimes.
That doesn't change the age of it. Every
No,
speck
it
of dirt every speck of dirt in the universe is the same age, whether it's 6,000 or 10 trillion. It's all the same age. There is no geologic column. There is no Eocene era. You guys, I know that's your Bible and you trust it and you believe it and you've studied it hard and you're going to feel real bad when you realize the Muslims are going to feel real bad when they realize I just studied something for my whole life that ain't true. The Catholics are going to realize after years and years of studying all their stuff, wow, that ain't true. It's the history of the world. People can spend a lifetime studying something and at the end found out why. Wow, I was wrong. Somebody's wrong. All these different religions, a whole bunch of them are going to find out they're wrong. And it's the same thing with evolution. What if you study it for a lifetime and at the end realize, wow, I was taught something. All the Germans in World War II, 55 million of them followed Hitler, Heil Hitler. And then later they found out why. The guy's an idiot. All the communists are going to someday find out, wow, I just spent a lifetime studying something that isn't true. You're going to find out you've been studying something that isn't true. There's no geologic column. All over the world, I showed it over and over again. There are petrified trees standing up, running through all the layers that you claim are different ages. What kind of tree it is does not matter. You're missing the point. It doesn't matter what kind of tree it is. They're standing up, running through the layers. The layers cannot be different ages. Forget the species of tree. The layers can't be different ages if it's a blade of grass going through the layers. It just simply proves the point. The layers all formed in 1 year. Each one's a different tide, 6 hours, 12 and a half minutes apart. They're not different millions of years ages. That's all. I'm sorry, monopolizing the time.
Well,
you go ahead.
No, you're good. One layer doesn't mean it has to be like that thick. It can be like 1,000 feet thick or 100 feet thick. Okay. Right. It can, like a mudslide can happen and a rapid amount of sediment can be deposited. It's not an inch a year, every year, all the time, constantly, everywhere on Earth.
Good. And okay. Now, would you concede Noah's flood could accomplish the same thing? Some parts of the Earth flexing up and down faster than others. You could get different amounts of sediments with each tide. Some tidal changes might wipe everything out, clear the slate again. Some might bring in 100 feet of mud with one tide. So Noah's flood, and the tidal pumping could accomplish exactly what you're saying. Some layers might be thin. Sometimes the tide would wipe back down to solid rock, start over. And all you've built up for the last 4 months is now gone. And then later you deposit 500 feet in one tide. It would depend upon the topography of the bottom of the ocean at the time. That's going to greatly affect how the sedimentation is and how fast the water's coming in and if the crust of the Earth is moving at that time. There's a lot of factors I think would explain exactly what you're saying with a different explanation. Noah's flood.
Well, the different models of Noah's flood, how the fossils might have been laid down, all have bits and pieces that make sense, but none of them make sense 100%, and some of them contradict each other. There's not really a model that explains. Sorry, what?
I say the same about your theory. Bits and pieces might make sense. Wow, the clams are all found together, huh?
Except it's usually a specific type of clam in a specific place.
There's a place in France. Tell the guy in Greece, our host here, Go over to Saint Etienne, France, where they find polystrata tree fossils upside down running through the layers. Now I think we really got a problem. How do you explain? Did the tree grow the wrong way for millions of years looking for sunlight? Or were all the layers deposited while some logs were being tossed around in the flood and happened to be upside down when they get stuck in the bottom and get buried upside down? It would happen easily with Noah's flood. I don't think it happens easily with the layers being different ages.
Well, it could happen easily with a peat bog situation or a swamp. Like cypress trees will fall over and stay preserved for hundreds or thousands of years because it's an anaerobic environment. So that might explain that.
It might be. And you're willing to stake your eternity on that, aren't you?
Well, I don't think that's an eternal issue. If there is a God or a heaven, I don't think.
That's what's keeping you from believing the book that could save you. That's what's keeping you from believing the book and believing God sent his son, Jesus Christ, to die for you. It's your belief in this geologic column, and you're going to hang on to it. It's up to you.
Well, I think you can believe in both. I just personally don't.
Okay. Here's the reference. If anybody's in France, have them. I'd like to get more up-to-date pictures of this. This is from an old textbook, Charles Schubert textbook of geology from London. That's all the reference I have. I'd like to get more modern color pictures, okay, obviously, of these cliff sides with the petrified trees over there. And sometimes they find them upside down. To me, it's just, I don't have a problem explaining it at all. It fits my theory perfectly. The flood did all that. The flood wiped, Grand Canyon probably formed in a week. All the layers were soft mud. There was a lot more water moving through soft mud. Of course you get erosion. Today it's hard rock and the erosion rate slowed down. But right after the flood, it would not be hard rock. It would all be mud layers from Noah's flood and washed out in minutes and then slowly hardened. If the layers are different ages, like millions. Okay.
All right, let me share some real quick. Hang on.
Okay.
Let's see. Oh, hang on. I have to open it again. 1 second. Excellent. I X'd out of it. 1 minute.
Is he sharing screen? Proverbs guy, you need to get him.
He's waiting to share it.
It's not shared yet, and until he shares it, I want to say that right when you mentioned me, sir, I was asking a question for later, which had to do with the backwards, with the trees that were found backwards. So that was a very funny coincidence. You mentioned me about those trees that are found backwards, the multi-strata fossils, and I was asking that question right at that moment. So the questions will come later.
Are you guys seeing it yet?
Yeah. I'm adding it, but it's not. It's still loading, I think, on your side. I have a blank screen here. I added it, so let's see. You see, yeah, it's loading.
The Wi-Fi is breaking up pretty bad. Is that me?
Yep, it's probably on your side. Give it a minute. We also lost Steven. Okay,
Is anyone seeing me?
at least. We also lost your picture, Jackson. Are you here?
Okay, can you guys hear me at all?
Yeah.
I see it and hear it.
Yep.
I'm not sure if my connection is bad or if everyone else's is.
I can hear you now, and we can see the picture. Steven dropped out. He will be back, so you can go ahead. We can hear you, Jackson. Jackson, can you hear me?
Okay. This is an Echinoconchus brachiopod, which is a lower Carboniferous endemic with two the Tomopyge trilobites embedded. And this is what I really wanted to show you. Can you guys hear me, by the way? My Wi-Fi is kind of breaking up.
Yep.
Okay. These are 3 brachiopod species that are found in the Carboniferous period and not modern day. So why are there not? This is from the same rock, by the way. I found these in the same rock, and why they're found along with horned coral, which is also the Carboniferous. Why are there no modern corals or modern brachiopods in this? Now, let me stop sharing because it's messing up my Wi-Fi.
Okay. Two things, Jackson. Number one, it is not possible for you or anybody else to know something is not alive today. You cannot possibly know that. Your Honor, there's no way this guy knows that something isn't alive anywhere in the world. I suggest that evidence be thrown out, okay? Secondly, you said, why are they not found in the same rock strata? Again, Your Honor, he has no idea that they're not in the same rock strata 50 feet underground in India right now. We have not explored the whole world. We've not explored the whole world, all the layers of the world, all over the world. All you know is what we found so far, and you've come to wild conclusions based upon a very limited amount of evidence. I suggest the case be thrown out, Your Honor.
Well, my evidence might be limited, but the overwhelming body of paleontology is pretty extensive.
Have all the paleontologists in the world covered every square inch of the world at every depth?
Of course not.
Of course not. Bingo. Case closed.
Yeah. Well, not case closed.
You don't know that these animals did not live at the same time. You're saying because you did not find them fossilized together, that proves something for the whole world? It's a really big planet, Jackson. Really big.
It is a big planet, and they've been found all over the world. And so far, everything that's been found, maybe something will be found. Yeah, maybe something will be found someday that doesn't fit. But so far, the trend is what I'm showing you.
Are there new species of animals discovered every year?
There are.
Okay, bingo.
Sure. I'm not saying you're not going to find more species in the fossil record, or that you won't necessarily find something out of place someday. But the trend is it's very unlikely, as it seems.
So you don't. In your theory, things that are not found together, fossilized, proves they did not live together ever. I think that's lousy.
Not necessarily, okay. But in this instance, I'm more showing what did live together.
Okay, I have been to Glen Rose, Texas, and walked in the human footprints that are found with dinosaur footprints. You either have to poo-poo that and say it's not true or somebody carved them or whatever, or admit humans and dinosaurs lived at the same time. We find their footprints in the same layer. That's not possible with your religion.
Well, I've seen photos of those footprints, and I'm not so sure they're human. All right.
I got castings of them here in our museum. You saw them. If that's not human, what else has a footprint like that? Big toe, mud squeezing up between the toes. Sometimes, and the stride was 6 feet, and sometimes increased to 8 or 9 feet. The guy was running, trying to avoid drowning, apparently, running through the mud. And sometimes he stepped in the dinosaur footprint, which is the logical place to step if you're running through mud where somebody else already stepped.
Are these the one that Carl Baugh found?
Carl Baugh is a good friend of mine. Yes, I've been there. I believe he's studied it for years. Many people have. They all come to the same conclusion, unless they're blinded by their evolution religion. Wow, these footprints are legitimate human. They're huge, and the people had to be 10 feet tall or so, which is a lot of evidence for that. But finding the footprints together, if they found the bones together, if you found a human skeleton inside a T-Rex belly, you still wouldn't believe, would you?
I would believe that, actually. That would be pretty convincing.
Oh, okay.
I promise you I would. But Carl Baugh, even Answers in Genesis and the Institute for Creation Research have said those footprints aren't legitimate.
You tell them I said they're wrong. I've been there. I've walked in them. I think they're legitimate.
All right. Well, I'll make a note to tell them, but sure. I don't know if they'll listen to me.
You would agree, I think. And the evolutionists also argue over what evidence is correct and what evidence is not. Do you agree with R. and Ra Nelson on everything?
Probably not everything. No.
Okay.
But I think for the most part, he gets the science right.
He believes that he says nobody believes the Earth was a hot ball of rock and we came from a rock. That's what all the textbooks teach. I show that over and over. Yes, you do believe you came from a rock, don't you?
I don't think we came from a rock, per se.
Let's see. We'll start at the.
Kind of an
Okay.
oversimplification.
Here we go. Right here. Earth began smaller than the whole universe was in a dot smaller than an atom. Do you believe that from the European Space Agency?
Possibly. I'm not married to the Big Bang Theory, but that's
Okay.
one explanation.
Here we go. Earth, let's see. I'll show you. Earth was a hot ball of rock. This is what they teach. I've got quotes from the science textbooks anyway, if that matters. That's what I'm concerned about, what we're teaching the kids. Where did it go? Right here. Earth began as a hot ball of R. Nelson. Here he is coming up. Okay. So the Big Bang Theory says everything was in a dot. If you don't have that, you don't have any better theory to explain why we're here at all. Why is there matter? Why is there energy? Where did it come from? I've got an answer for that. God did it. You don't want to believe that? Okay, but then you got to find it did itself. I'm sorry, I thought I knew right where that slide was. I got 55,000 slides here.
Yeah, it's a lot of slides, but I think something definitely caused something to happen. I don't think nothing did it. You know?
Origin of the elements, stellar evolution. There we're coming up. Okay. You go through this over and over, and the evolution is just poo-poo. Like, well, we don't believe that. Okay, I know you don't, but I think it's logical. Somebody had to make this. And the idea of, here we go. Earth formed 4.5 billion years ago, a uniform ball of hot rock. That's National Geographic. Okay. Let's see. Was Earth a molten ball? At first, Earth was a ball of molten rock. Were all the molecules that, what now?
That's not talking about the Big Bang Theory. That's talking about the stellar nebula.
But the Earth was a ball of molten rock. Was all the molecules that make up your body in that ball of rock?
The molecules in the ball of rock, the Earth. Did
all the molecules that make up Jackson, were they in that ball of rock, or were they someplace else? Did you land on the planet from somewhere else?
I think all the atoms were there. The molecules, no.
Okay, all the atoms that make up Jackson, you were in that dot. Earth formed, it was a hot ball of rock. Earth was a hot ball of melted rock. Earth was a hot ball of viscous ball of rock. Hot ball of rock. Yes, you do teach and believe you came from a hot ball of rock. Marin Ross says nobody ever believes that. Yes, they do. They all teach that.
It's not saying how life arose. It's just saying what the Earth was at one time.
Well, if the Earth was a hot ball of rock, all the atoms that make up Jackson Row were in that hot ball of rock. You believe you came from a rock. Why can't you just admit it?
We didn't come from a rock. I mean, you want to talk about some organic chemistry, I'm not really the guy to talk to, but.
Well, that came later, but the Earth started off as a hot ball of very hot liquid. Earth was a hot ball of rock 4.5 billion years ago. This is what they teach. And then it rained on the rocks for millions of years and turned them into soup, and the soup came alive. So all the molecules that make up your brain were in that hot ball of rock. How can you trust your thoughts? Your brain's nothing but a bunch of molecules that got together by chance. Maybe they're in there backwards. You guys, you really don't understand, I don't think, how dumb the religion is you've chosen to believe in, or you've been taught. It's just simply not true. So I choose to not believe it.
Do you think that a God could have started the first cells and then let organic chemistry take over from there?
Well, I think that'd be a retarded God. I would not want to worship a God like that wants to doesn't know what he wants, just make a hot ball and let it see what happens. Let's stand back and see if chemistry works. No, my God designed Adam straight from the dust of the ground right to a living human being, and he could walk, talk, name the animals, and get married first day.
From the dust of the ground? You're saying Adam was made from a rock?
Oh, yeah. See, man can take clay out of the ground and make a coffee cup, but the clay cannot make the coffee cup by itself. God can take dust and make man. You want to leave God out and say the dust just made the man by himself without God. That's the difference. A man can make a coffee cup out of clay. The coffee cup can't make itself.
Or can it? No, it can't. But
okay.
but
We would both agree it's made out of clay. We got trillions of, I don't know, trillion. We got a lot of clay in our gravel pit here. Come get all you want. Make all the coffee cups you want. I think man can take iron out of the ground, shape it into pieces, and make a car. I think it's pretty cool. They can do that. But the car cannot make itself. I think God can take the molecules of the dirt and make a man that can then reproduce and reproduce and reproduce. And you and I are the who knows how many generations away from Adam. The fact that we can walk, talk, think, move, breathe, reproduce is all a part of an amazing design. A car is an amazing design, and it only moves and can't reproduce or think. Man has got several key factors way above what a car can do, and nobody would dream a car made itself. No matter how many trillions of years you give it, the iron ore is not going to form a car.
Well, I think reproduction and variation over time is a key factor there.
Deep time. There's the cure. Deep time. Here it is. Let me get the pacifier up. You didn't say deep time?
I didn't say deep time. I said, I don't remember what I said. It wasn't deep time.
Well, I showed you that Earth started off as a hot, viscous ball of rock, and water trapped inside the minerals slowly erupted and became a pool of water, and a little molecule evolved in the pool of water. This is what they're teaching the kids. If you don't believe that, then help me get it out of the schools.
Well,
evolution has no business being taught in public school at taxpayer expense. It's not science. It's a religious belief. I think they should teach biology in biology classes. Boys and girls, this is the deltoid muscle. It attaches to the humerus and to the scapula and to the clavicle, and it lifts your arm up this way. You don't need to tell them it's millions of years old and we used to be an ape. It's unnecessary. Not part of biology.
We didn't used to be. We still are.
I think you can teach them all of science, and I did for 15 years, and not give credit to dumb religion like evolution. You can teach them all about rocks and minerals. Boys and girls, here's the Mohs hardness scale. We go all the way from talc to a diamond, 1 to 10. That's got nothing to do with evolution. You can teach them how to identify crystals. Boys and girls, this is quartz, this is feldspar. You can teach all that stuff. It has nothing to do with evolution. You don't have to add in there, this is 47 billion years old, or this is from the Eocene era. You can leave all that out. That's part of somebody's religion. You can say, we find fossils in the ground. Boys and girls, look at this fish fossil. What we know is it died, and we know it was buried quickly. That's what we know. Anything else?
So what we
speculate.
So we should teach about that fossil is it died and I found it in the ground, and there's some other stuff around it, but that's not important. And where I found it, that's not really important either.
Well, fossils are found by the trillions. Where you found it might be important. And you want to interpret that to be a certain age. I would interpret that to be just a different tidal ebb and flow. Could be a different age by 6 hours, but you want to make it a different age by millions of years. And you want me to pay to have your theory taught. And you don't want my theory taught in the schools. I think that's prejudice.
All right. So, gentlemen, we are fastly approaching our 50-minute mark, and I'd like to reserve our last 10 minutes for questions and answers. So, Brother Achilles, if you can start going through the questions we've reserved one at a time, we'll let the gentlemen start answering those.
Yes, but I want to ask permission to ask one question about a subject that was raised at some point.
Go ahead.
From Kent Hovind's seminars, I remember that he was sent living trilobites at some point, and he kept them in a jar, but he didn't know how to keep them alive, and they died. So, and we also discovered them today as well. In Alaska, I think, was the latest discovery. And we have found fossils of a footprint, a man footprint that stepped on a trilobite. That's the second thing about trilobites. And the third thing that all these three I've learned from Ken Hovind seminars, which I highly suggest to people to buy them and educate themselves. Another very important aspect is that supposedly, according to evolution, they were way before other beings, and yet they have the most complicated eyeball. than all the other creatures that exist. So for a primate being to have the most complicated eye, that whole thing is a little confusing, and it could be best explained by not being an earlier form of life, just different, and it has vanished, but still existing, yet not primate, not a very old form of life. So
Okay,
I'm asking if you know about these things. Yeah.
One quick comment, and then Jackson, you explain. I'm showing on screen one of the trilobite eyes. There are 3 different types of eyes found on the trilobite. This one says that the trilobites are found in the Cambrian era. That's the oldest. The oldest layer has trilobites by the billions that are found, and they've already got one of the most complex eyes ever. 15,000 eyeballs, all connected to the brain. They're getting 15,000 pictures of these little compound eyes. I got one holding one in my hand here. Trilobite eyes are the most complex eye ever found in nature. And this is the first creature to evolve? I think it's ridiculous. And the idea that there may be some trilobites still alive is certainly legitimate. We haven't explored the whole world, but I think there has been evidence of trilobites found still alive, but that wouldn't matter. Your chart, Jason, shows the trilobite living 600, 500, 450, whatever is million years ago. And yet they already have the most complicated eye. And some of them were huge trilobites. I mean, really huge. The 3 different kinds of eyes, there's one right there. What are trilobites? Australian Museum. So I think the human footprint stepping on a trilobite is legitimate. You can't accept that, I know, because you've already decided they lived at a different time. So if they found a living trilobite and put it in a museum, all you would say is, wow, one survived for 400 million years. You would not give up on your geologic column. I promise you.
Well, first of all, the Cambrian isn't the earliest. It's just the earliest we kind of talk about. Like there's the Precambrian. There are life forms in the Precambrian, and they're way less complex than the Cambrian. But the eyes of that trilobite there, that one, that's not a Cambrian trilobite. That's like a Devonian era trilobite. You can see. I know you don't believe the layers. I know you don't believe it, but
I don't. I really don't.
They do get gradually more complex with time. And they're not the most, actually, they're very complex eyes, but they're not the most complex. I would argue the most complex eyes were mantis shrimp alive today, or octopus eyes, something like that. Hawk eyes are very good, very good. But I don't think they're the most advanced eyes in the animal kingdom ever.
Okay, this textbook shows in the Cambrian era trilobites, bottom right-hand corner. Do you believe trilobites, there we go, trilobites lived 450 million years ago?
Yeah, they lived in the Cambrian.
Okay. Do you believe that the trilobites had a very complicated eye? Whether it's the most complicated is a subject for debate, but is it a really complicated eye to have 1,500 eyeballs connected to the brain, each one 1,500 different wires going to the brain, optic nerve? I think, did nobody design that?
Well, I think something designed it. But some of the first trilobites, the Agnostida trilobites, didn't have eyes at all, and they're in the Cambrian.
Well, here we go. Here is another chart, Cambrian era trilobites. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Your whole geologic column. Jackson, I feel bad for you having studied all this for so long, but you really wasted your time. There is no geologic column. The layers are all the same age. I'm sorry.
Well,
but I know that's your Bible. That's your Bible, and you're going to live by it. Okay. I know you got a bunch more questions. Stephen, we've only got a few minutes left, and I'm real tired. So go ahead. What other questions you got?
All right. I've got it posted on the screen, Doc. Can you see it?
Yes, I will read it. When we get the question, okay. Do you think God? This is for Dr. Hovind. Do you think God will take me up to to heaven? He means, even when I'm slow, but believe and love Him.
When nobody goes to heaven because they're fast or slow, and nobody goes to heaven because they believe or love him, you have to accept his payment for your sins. We've all broken God's laws. We're all guilty. He doesn't want any sin in heaven. It's his heaven. He can bring in whoever he wants. He decided if you committed one sin, you can't come because you'll pollute heaven. So God himself became a man, came down, lived a perfect life, died on the cross, and his death paid for my sins, and now I get to go to heaven because of what Jesus did. That's the only reason anybody goes. I'm not going because I'm good. You kidding? Going because I'm forgiven. Anybody can have that. Amen. Call me 855 Big Dino. I'll tell you over the phone how to get it. Okay.
All right. Next question is for Brother Jackson, and it is: what is the best evidence for macroevolution?
Well, it would have to be the genetic evidence. I mean, the fossil evidence is good, but genetics is where you really prove it, I think. And I'm not really a genetics guy, but from what I've read, yeah.
All right. Dr. Hovind, the next question is for you. And can Ken explain layers of volcanic ash and flood sediments?
Of course he can't. Well, no. During the flood, when the crust of the earth is broken up, I think volcanoes would also be going off all over the place at the same time. Volcanoes happen right now underwater, and sometimes they're burst up through the water, like half of Iceland or those places. And they spread ash layers on the water, sometimes on the land, and then covered by water. It's easy to explain volcanic ash layers during the flood. The earth was broken up into plates when the fountains of the deep broke open, like it says in Genesis chapter 6. So I think the flood is the only explanation for why we have layers at all, and why the layers have ash layers in the mixed up. Noah's flood would certainly do that easily.
Fair enough. And Jackson, the next question is for you. How do you explain that some of those trees are petrified in the middle and coalified at the top and bottom, and some of them are also upside down, as revealed to us from drilling through them?
I think one of the explanations is those are almost always lycopsid trees from the Carboniferous period, which doesn't exist, but still from the Carboniferous period. And that's a period associated with both lowland coastal environments and peat bogs. And I think that would be one of the explanations.
Okay. The next question is for Dr. Hovind. When scientists say the Earth is younger on the underlayers, do you think they might mean laid down earlier?
I would stick by the guns and say I think every speck of dirt in the universe is the same age. There is no speck of dirt that's younger than any other. No speck of dirt anywhere. I think if you shuffle a deck of cards, the top card is not younger than the bottom card. And I think if I tip this thing over and make 20 layers, they're all the same age. They're all in here at the same time. So every speck of dirt on the planet's the same age, whether it's 6,000 or 6 trillion, okay? So there's no such thing as a younger layer. And I think if you'll watch that video, Experiments in Stratification, it shows that layers form sideways, 8 or 10 or 12 layers at a time are forming horizontally. They're not forming vertically. They're forming horizontally. Anybody that loves science ought to look at the scientific evidence and give up on believing the layers formed this way. If the top layer is younger, where did it come from? Where was all that dirt sitting for millions of years waiting to land? If it just got moved from one place to another by a volcano or something, it's not changing the age of it. Moving the cards to a different level in the deck does not make the top one younger. I don't know how they don't get it. All the layers are the same age.
Thank you for answering that. The next question is also for you, Dr. Hovind. Do any evolutionists believe the geologic column has any basis? I think it's asking, supposed to be if any creationists believe.
Well, okay, sure. They believe it because that's what they've been taught. All the Nazis believed Hitler was a wonderful guy. That's what they were taught in school. And you didn't dare teach anything else or you'd end up in the gulag. So you had to teach, wow, Hitler's a great guy. Yes, Heil Hitler. Under communist countries right now, you better believe in communism or you'll go to the prison camps. Under Muslim countries right now, you better believe in Allah or you're going to go to jail or get executed or get your head cut off. The fact that a lot of people believe something has nothing to do with the topic. Everybody could believe something and still be wrong. Majority opinion has never been a good argument for truth. Majority opinion. Let's see. Depends. The majority opinion of scientific studies depends on who's funding them. If a drug company is funding a study, it's going to say, wow, take this drug, it's good for you. Okay. The evolution, let's see. Majority opinion in communist China. They all believe this guy's a great guy. It doesn't make it true. And the fact that a whole bunch of people believe in the geologic column and teach it does not make it true. I don't know how they can't get it.
All right, Dr. Hovind, this question is for you also. How can trees get petrified in 1 year of the flood?
Well, I didn't say they did. I said they got buried in 1 year. Then once they're buried, isolated from oxygen, then they could petrify slowly over the next 5 years. They've made petrified wood in the laboratory under pressure, I think, in a couple of days. I don't know. I know they can coalify wood real quickly. But once it's buried, then it's isolated and the oxygen can't get to it, so it's going to not rot. At least take a long time to rot. That's why the minerals can soak in and replace the fibers of the wood. I didn't say it was petrified in a year. If I did, I'm sorry, I'm mistaken. It got buried in 1 year. Then it could petrify over the next 20 years.
All right, and the last question of the evening, again, is for Dr. Hovind. Very sorry, Jackson. The question is, Doctor, do you really think all the dinosaurs on the Ark were baby dinosaurs?
Oh, I don't know. I think that's logical. If I was Noah and I'm 600 years old, by then he'd be pretty smart, you would think. He'd say, well, bring the babies of everything. Bring baby elephants. Why would you bring big elephants? Babies are smaller. They take up less room. They weigh less. They sleep a lot more. They poop a lot less. They eat a lot less. There's all kinds of common sense reasons for bringing babies of everything. And I think if you look at the dinosaurs and classify them into maybe not species, but into families, there may be, I'm just picking a number wildly, there may be 30 different types of dinosaurs, families of dinosaurs. Maybe it's 50, maybe it's 100, I don't know. But let's say Noah had 30 different pairs of dinosaurs on the ark. They could diversify into more afterwards, just like dogs have diversified into Chihuahuas and Great Danes. They're still dog. Chihuahua just barely, but okay, they're still dog. That's all that's ever happened. Everything getting off the ark would diversify up to the range of what it can, like the cows that can handle cold weather, cows that can handle hot weather, the Brahma. Some can handle the cold weather. Some produce more milk, some more beef. 450 breeds of cows might have had a common ancestor called a cow on Noah's Ark. So yes, I believe Noah took everything on the ark, including dinosaurs. He didn't take fish on the ark or insects. It says all those on land in whose nostrils is the breath of life. Fish didn't have to go. Insects didn't have to go. There's a website called baraminology.com from the Hebrew word baramin, which means kind. I think they say there are now 8,000 kinds of animals that would have to go on the ark. And if you bring babies of everything, I don't think that's a problem fitting them on there. It's certainly not a problem compared to the evolutionist problem of all the varieties of animals and the dinosaurs fit in a dot smaller than an atom. Now that's a problem.
All right. Well, gentlemen, we are at exactly 1 hour and 3 minutes. I'm sorry we stole the extra 3 minutes from you, Dr. Hovind. We're going to go ahead and let you get back to your lovely wife. And we thank you so much for coming on the show tonight.
Thank you. Jackson, come visit again. Get you converted. All right.
Hopefully.
Thank you, everyone.
All right. Well, after Dr. Hovind takes off, we're going to open it up to the open panel portion. I have posted the link out in the comments, and you are now welcome to come on to the show. Jackson, feel free to hang out with us for as long as you'd like. I'm sure we might get some interesting questions for you. Okay. Achilles, can you hold this down for about 2 minutes, and I'll be right back?
Yep.
All right.
I think I can. We'll see. Okay. While Jackson also is taking a small break, proper FPV, come here, come on panel. Let's discuss this, because I think you got your answer, and it's from C Science Film Labs. You gotta start seeing that. both atheism and evolution are a religion, because the definition of a religion is that you have faith in something. So if you have a lot of faith in a lot of gaps that they must be true, then it's not science, it's religion. So we admit it. That's what changes. We admit that Christianity is a religion. We have faith in it. Hello, that's another Jackson. Hello, Jackson. One
Hello there,
last.
Jack.
Jack A, did you say something?
Jackson, can you hear me?
Jackson, you seem to be muted on your side somewhere in OBS, because live StreamYard reports your microphone not to be muted.
Hello?
Oh, hello.
Oh, we can hear you.
We can hear you now. I mean, we did.
Well, we could hear you.
Yeah.
Well, what happened?
Okay. Jackson.
Oh, you did hear me?
Okay, yes. Jackson, one last, we heard you again.
Oh, hold on, I gotta figure something out. I'll be back.
All right, but that was good. Okay. Yes, true. I think that he doesn't understand definitions, because Christianity, if anything, is not a cult. And then he says your straw man of atheism is hilarious. So I think he has an issue with definitions. That's all. He needs to go back and check them out. Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot to put you guys on stage. Hello, Dan.
Hello, sir. Hello, everybody. That was a great
Jackson,
debate.
give us a test.
Hello. What am I testing?
No, Jackson, because he was having audio problems.
Very good.
Yeah, Jackson, we still can't hear you. Nope.
Yeah, I just have an enormous delay.
All right, we heard that. So if you have a question for Jackson, you can shoot it, and we might get it with a delay. Doesn't matter. We had 1 hour with Kent Hovind, and he's going to go get some rest. And now it's up to the rest of us.
And it'll take a lot of us to fill those shoes, but come on, we can do it.
Oh, yeah. Dustin, there should be a link in the chat. So scroll up a little bit and you should find the link. Actually, I will paste the link again for anyone that wants to join. Here we go.
Well, I'll start. I thought that was a very enjoyable debate. Two respectful guys, and some very good information.
Yes, I want to give that to Jackson as well, and tell him that this is how debates should be conducted, in such respect. And great job, my brother.
Oh, thank you. I always try to keep it civil.
Yeah, because I've seen a lot of debates where people encounter these facts or opinions and say, you only say that because you are a Baptist. So that is not addressing what Kent Hovind was saying. and it diverts the discussion to different lengths. He has to respond to that attack, and things get wild. So for me, it's very refreshing to see people who can carry on a discussion without attacks and fallacies. So good job. I mean it.
All right, thank you.
Jackson, want to give us a test now? This time you seem to be muted from here on StreamYard. So if you can press unmute. Let me try here. No, it tells me that you have.
Yeah, I don't think I can fix it.
No, it's good. We can hear you now.
Hey, actually, we hear you. All right, so what do you have for us? We're going to call you Jackson 2 because Jackson Rose our number one Jackson. So what do you got for us, Jackson 2?
I'm working with like a 13-second delay.
All right. Do you want to ask Jackson something?
Just ignore me for the time being. You guys go on, carry on.
Dan, do you have a question for Jackson?
Basically, your specialty is more in fossils, I was assuming, or are you? Actually, I missed your intro every time. Sorry, they're calling me late to the party, guy. But Jackson, I'd like to know a little bit about your stuff.
Oh, I just like looking for fossils. I don't have a degree or anything. I just study fossils. I like fossils, among other things, but fossils are a big one.
You're my man. I love fossils.
Yeah, they're pretty cool. We can all agree on that.
Yeah.
What sparked your interest in that field, Jackson? What was it about the fossils that, like, every young boy loves dinosaurs, but not many young boys love rocks? Like, what was it that gravitated you to that?
Yeah, I've always loved rocks too as a kid. My uncle was a geologist. He would send me rocks when I was like 5, starting then and on. So I was always into stuff like that. I don't know. I guess that was one of the things that got me started on fossils.
All right. Well, hey, geology runs in your blood. That's pretty cool. Now we just have to convince you that it's not from the geologic columns or different layers, and then we'll all be on the same page.
Yeah.
Oh, another question. So did I understand right? Sometime you're into engineering or something?
Oh,
like
no, I'm not an engineer at all. I'm terrible at mechanics and stuff like that.
Oh, okay. You mind asking if I ask what you do?
I kind of run a conservation type organization right now. I'm also really into animals and stuff like that.
Oh, cool.
That's pretty much what I'm doing right now.
Very cool.
Yeah. But before that, just basic, factory type work, nothing special.
Well, Dan is going to be doing a special episode on our channel this coming Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And he's going to be doing it on the, I'm sorry, refresh my memory, Dan.
That was your job. I don't have a memory.
I know. It was evidence for
design.
Creation, right? Special design?
But design. And to show the evidence that stuff is designed, and that we can, with our human brains and science, determine if something's designed or it happened by chance.
Which I would like to discuss something. It's not like a question. I would like to discuss something with Jackson. And the fact that according to the official narrative of how we got here, because that's what it boils down to, how we got here. So according to the official narrative, which Kent Hovind, is attacking on all sides, there was a sequence of events. And at the beginning of those events, the official story is that there was nothing. And out of that nothing, there was a singularity that exploded. After that nothing, so we come from nothing, planets started forming, which has a lot of problems by itself, and I'm not going to address those. And at some point, the Earth was a molten rock, which started taking form. And when it took the form that it did, it got hit by another planet, and it started spinning. And that's how the moon got created. So both the moon and the Earth were molten rocks that got created together, and Earth got moltenified again for a second time. So we got here after that process. So even if the origin of life starts later, that is its history. It is a sequence of events that goes back all the way to the Big Bang, where there was nothing. And then when everything started out of that nothing, we arrived to this. And then in the future, there is nothing again. So all we are trying to say is that there is no there are so many things. There are no ethics in that story. It doesn't make any sense. There are so many things that prove there is some form of a creator. And even the official narrative now is turning it, and I heard even Dawkins saying that there had to be something there that created life from non-life. And if there was something, he says that it must have been aliens, because he will never accept there was a God. But I heard Dawkins say that. I have the clip somewhere saved. And so if there was some intelligent design there actually had to be some intelligent design earlier too, because it's even earlier that it doesn't make sense again. So it's not like Ken Hovind is coming up with these terms from his head or from the Bible, that he believes in it, and therefore he's saying that the other theory doesn't make sense. He sees that it doesn't make sense, and so do we. And we're trying to help others see the same. Now, I'm sorry, I gave you too much. I just point out that at some point you made this discussion with him about that's not exactly how, but it is. It is. This is the official narrative, and it's in every textbook, and it's in every scientific book you can find.
Well, if either one of those, there are several independent theories there. If either one of those is disproven, it doesn't necessarily disprove the other ones. Mm-hmm. And I'm not the one who, the kind of person who says there was nothing. And I don't think that's the official narrative. There was nothing. Something definitely caused something to happen. What was it though? I don't know.
So then, I mean, everything has a cause, and like that. So you're not discounting a designer, creator, intelligent designer. You're just saying you don't see the evidence for it.
Well, I'm just saying it could have been a creator. It could have been some unknown natural process, or we have no idea. Yeah.
How much of the outer space science are you familiar with, Jackson? Like, are you familiar with any of the components of the Big Bang or cosmic evolution, as we refer to it?
Big Bang, not so much. The rest of it, I'm pretty good at, like space stuff.
Well, my question, and it's not a got you. I want to know from your worldview, why do all the planets spin in the same direction except for one? With the Big Bang theory, shouldn't all the planets be spinning in the same direction?
Well, I think which planet spins the wrong way? Is it Uranus or Venus?
It's one Venus.
Venus.
Okay.
Yeah. Venus. It's not only spinning the wrong way; it is turning the other way from the solar system, and there is also 3 or 4 moons that spin in contrast to all the other moons on their planets. It's on Jupiter and Saturn. I don't remember which ones they are. So
Well,
yeah.
I know that all the planets orbit on the same plane, which would make sense for like a planetary nebula if they form in a planetary nebula. But as for why it spins the wrong way, I know there is an explanation for it. I can't remember what it is. That one's, I'm gonna have to look into that one again.
All right. The thing about that is that there is the angular momentum. So if everything came from its star and from spinning its spewed planets out, then they should be spinning on the same direction, not backwards. And
Sure.
yeah. No, I've never heard of an official explanation about this. I've only heard of official questionings about this, not an explanation.
Yeah, I think one of the explanations is it was hit by another body and it started spinning in the other direction, basically.
Okay, next question. So the other question that I always have trouble getting answered, and I would love a good explanation. I feel like you will try to give me an honest one. We know that the moon is consistently moving away from us about an inch a year. And as far back as we can tell, that has been a very consistent model. How far back do you think we have to go before life on this planet would be unsustainable?
I don't know. We haven't been measuring that moon for a while. I mean, we've been measuring it with the Apollo mirrors they left behind, the retro mirror. I forget what they call them. With precise laser measurements. That's only been the past 50, 60 years.
Yeah, but I mean, to be fair, though, the past 50 or 60 years, the model has been consistent with about an inch a year, correct?
Sure. But if we're looking at my timeline, if the Earth has been around for 4.5 billion years, I think it's probably it could have changed pretty significantly in that time. As it moves away, it's probably going to move away faster.
Well, what is the consensus now of the age of the Earth?
It's about 4.5 billion.
So 4.5 billion inches closer to the Earth. Do you think there's any possibility that life would be sustainable? Because I can't see it.
Well, no, and I'm not saying it was ever that close.
No, I know you didn't, but the scientific model, though, is that it's consistently moving further away an inch a year. And if that model stayed steady for the whole 4-point-something billion years, then we're looking at 4+ billion inches closer, which to me seems unsustainable. I guess that's my question.
Right, that would be if it was the same that whole time, which again, we've only been measuring it for like not even 60 years.
Has the time or the distance fluctuated at all? Or has it been consistent to that inch a year model?
So far, it's been consistent. But again, we're looking at 50 years of either 6,000 years or 50 years of 4.5 billion years. Either way you look at it, it's not a huge chunk of time.
Okay. My other question, and I think this is the last one I have, it's about, I believe it's bacteria. Isn't bacteria, don't they have a life in 8 hours and they regenerate more bacteria? I'm wondering, with all those generations, we get up to like 3 a day. Why haven't we observed any evolution with the bacteria?
Oh, we have, to an extent.
I mean, can you clarify the extent?
Like some have been made to, under certain conditions, form multicellular type colonies.
That's not a change or an adaptation, though, right? That's just colonizing. Like that's groups of the same bacteria forming a community. That's not really evolving, is it?
Well, it's kind of, they form their own membrane over them, and it's been a while since I've read that paper, but
yeah. Fair. Okay, those were my questions. Dan, Hart, Jackson, you guys have any more questions?
Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah, we hear
Yeah.
you.
Oh,
fine.
awesome. Cool. Okay, I guess I finally fixed it. Oh man, I had the question. You know what? I'll pass for now. I'll come back to me, please.
You sound great though now. So all
That's
we need
excellent.
now,
I
yeah,
just
is
had
to
to open you guys in a new browser.
Yeah, sometimes that completely fixes it.
You gotta love technology, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. Tell me about it. I have a PC here. It's giving me BIOS trouble. Gotta love them.
Well, to quote my favorite creationist, with time, evolution should have made technology more dependable, but we seem to observe other cases.
Right. If we don't put our hands on it, it doesn't improve. But supposedly AI will prove us wrong, and when it does that, it's gonna be too late. I don't even believe. Just by the way, I don't even believe in that whole Terminator situation ever being possible.
No,
I
I don't
mean,
think so.
No, not a Skynet believer.
yeah, no, because water. I mean, any Terminator can come at me at any time. I'll have water. Some water.
I'm not worried about like a Terminator scenario, but AI does scare me a little bit because I feel like it's already as smart or possibly smarter than us. And I'm not sure if now that we've let Pandora out of the box, we can ever catch up to it.
Well, it's the deep fakes that are probably going to be problematic.
I mean, those are already popping up their ugly heads, right?
Yep. I think that what I'm scared of when it comes to AI is how humans compete on creating a better model than the other one. So it's not that it's improving itself; it's once again a reflection of man's strive to without having morals to create something better than something else, that someone else. So it is scary, and it's being used and will be used for controlling information, data. So even if it doesn't wake up on its own to get a mind of its own, for me it's dangerous enough. If you try to install Windows 11, you will see what I mean.
Oh, so you're worried about like the human application of it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like so many other good things. So, Jackson Rowe, and so where I'm more in on design. I think, live, breathe, design and stuff. Have you ever thought of? So I'm thinking like trilobites, Cambium era. So many millions of years ago. What that would have taken, because we know the DNA. You get this little gene here, will make whatever. That the complexity of the DNA needed way back in the Cambrium, and then even with deep time, how much of the evolution of DNA would have been needed to say like make a trilobite or some of those cool looking plants or other organisms.
Well, yeah, it was by the Cambrian. It was already pretty advanced. I mean, there was like a couple billion years of microbes living on the Earth, according to the fossil record, before any multicellular life even got off the ground.
Well, microorganism, but that was pretty complex there in the Cambium and Precambium, and kind of before that, all they found is just the little jellyfish and little microbe type things. But when you're kind of trying to design something, if you were going to have you ever thought I want to make a trilobite? What it would have taken, and where we know now on modern things what it takes for, say, like a dragonfly eye or other compound eyes, body types, and to think, have you ever seen like design in it, or?
I mean, yeah, there's design in it, but was it designed by billions of years of natural selection, or was it designed by a god, or was it designed by a combination of the two? I don't know.
Okay, so yeah, because that's where I came to the point. Just the nature and where I kind of specialize in design, competitive
So
garden shows, and
let me ask this though. Natural selection is a mechanism.
Right.
So doesn't a mechanism imply that somebody designed it?
I don't know.
So it either like what it pre-existed and it started selecting, or is it a mechanism that is being used just like we have computers that have hardware and they have software and they have different, when a computer boots, it starts running all through 20 processes to check itself, and so it's a mechanism, and just like the laws, we call them laws because they cannot be um, um, bypassed. So isn't there a chance that somebody has designed those?
Yeah, there's a chance somebody designed it. I don't argue there isn't. There's no chance of that, but I mean, I'm not totally convinced of it yet as of right now. But I think it's possible.
So if what Dawkins said, and take my word for that, because he did say it, we might argue that he didn't, but I saw it with my eyes, and for me that was a great step because he actually admitted intelligent design, even though he gave it to aliens.
that was the movie, the documentary, No Intelligence Needed or something like that by that funny
No
guy.
intelligence allowed.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah, and so that one, and one that
I remember
my
an
favorite.
interview. It was on an interview. I don't know if he also said it in some documentary, but I remember it was on an interview.
Yeah, the documentary was an interview by Ben Steen. That's it, Steen. He went around. Thanks. He went around interviewing different evolutionists, and Dawkins was one of them. So that clip you saw was out of a documentary.
Oh,
And
good. And I think people are typing in the chat the details. It's Ben Steen. I don't know how to pronounce that. Steen.
Ben Stein.
And no intelligence allowed, said Joseph. Is that it?
Ben Stein's the guy who says Bueller, the guy from that Ferris Bueller's Day Off,
No. He's the dry eyes guy. You got dry eyes.
It doesn't blink, huh?
It might be both. I'm not.
It is the same guy. Yeah, I'm just playing with you, Jackson.
Okay.
Man, his voice is worse than nails on a chalkboard, though, to me.
So my question here is, so let's say, okay, that that solves the question. How did life sprout from non-life? But doesn't that bring the same question about what happened to those aliens and they were brought to life? Was it other aliens that created those aliens that were created by other aliens? I mean, nobody addressed that in that documentary, but boggles my mind.
Yeah, I think it's pretty unlikely aliens had anything to do with it.
Well, and even if there was a scenario like that, they would have still, and like Dawkins did say that they would have had to come into existence by the same natural chemical process if it didn't start here on Earth.
Right. So my brother Dan, isn't there a redundant? I don't know how to call that. If they add in our evolutionary process, they add alien intervention. So isn't that implied for their evolutionary process as well?
It would be, but so.
Or theirs did not require intervention, and life actually was created from non-life on that planet.
That's what Richard Dawkins alluded to. But the main thing on that is, and the reason that I think that isn't that called panspermia, whatever it is, coming from
Yeah.
genetic stuff coming from outer space. If it was cut and dried, that it was an easy process with the chemicals we know are on Earth, what we know are in life. If they were that easy to be coming together, nobody would even think about, the little things coming from outer space actually have been being needed. And so that's my thing, just the complexity upon complexity from the start of the universe, from the forming of the universe, galaxies, planets, stars, planets, then the Earth, and then the life. There's just so much creation, design, and intelligent seeming design, but so much design. It just seems to be highly unlikely and improbable that it just did it. The cause was just natural processes.
Well, it's kind of interesting. The thing they found in the asteroids like 20 amino acids and all nucleobases. So there's something to that. But like, did conscious aliens in a spaceship come down and plant the first cells on Earth? Probably not. I don't think so. No.
No, because the explanation for naturalism rather than a supernatural is the whatever that easier explanation for a cause. And then once you keep going in that, or multiverse, that's getting to a point that's highly complex. It's highly complex the way it is, but
and now
that's
we have quantum mechanics now, and what they call theoretical physics. So for me, theoretical physics doesn't make sense, because physics must have proof, must have mathematical proof, equations, that make sense, and they have application on the physical world. That theoretical physics opens up, and quantum mechanics and string theory, they are good theories, but they will remain theories. So, but we call that science now, and it's all being brought in to answer all the questions that they can't answer all these years that creationists are asking. And that is the reason why Dawkins turned to intelligent design. You gotta get in his shoes and understand that he cannot. We've tried replicating it in a lab, and whatever we do, not only can't we, but whatever we do, it proves that it requires somebody to think of how it's done in order for it to happen. It doesn't happen on its own. So at some point, he had to introduce that, okay, yeah, there could be aliens, but there is a false premise right there. If it was some intervention from another being, then that implies that there has to be the same intervention in the creation of that being, because otherwise, if it didn't happen here, it must have happened there. Non-life creating life from rain and thunders and chemicals getting together.
Well, and that's the funniest part. Like they say natural process, it's all a natural process. But in reality, when you dig down deep enough to the core, that natural process has to turn into a creator. You have to have that spark of ignition.
Yep.
I don't think that's necessarily true.
Okay. Convince me why.
Hello, Rex.
I would say that there's a whole host of things that humanity doesn't currently understand with our level of technology. Great examples would be like, you brought up quantum mechanics. It's a field that's relatively new. Maybe the past 3 decades, we've relatively known that, or we've tried to create a model of the quantum realm that bridges the gap between general relativity and quantum mechanics, and we haven't figured it out yet. But I mean, hundreds of years ago, we didn't really know why lightning existed. It was a phenomenon that we observed. We didn't know why it necessarily existed or why it occurred, and only in time did we develop theories and understand that there's a ionic potential that occurs within clouds and ground, and then lightning occurs. So I think it's just a matter of time before we finally reach the point of understanding that these things that we observe, these quantum mechanics that maybe right now don't make sense because of our flawed understanding of how the universe works. But I mean, the question of if we'll ever understand it, I think, is stupid. The question is when we'll understand it.
I mean, that's a lot, and I mean a lot of built-in assumptions, but that's kind of par for the course when it comes to evolution, so I'll allow it. I guess we can test that then, Jackson. Jackson 2. What is the origins of life?
What's the origins of life?
Yep.
I don't think anyone on this planet knows exactly why. I think we can make some relatively fair guesses based on some we have certain information. We can make some guesses based on that information, but no one on this planet knows why. And I can tell you what I think, but I can't sit here and say I know why.
That doesn't concern you?
That doesn't concern me? No, I mean, there's plenty of things that I'll never understand. I mean, there's a galaxy that's 300 million light years away from me right now that I will never visit in my lifetime unless we somehow invent teleportation. I will never visit it. I'll never see it. But it doesn't. It doesn't scare me that I'll never know about it. I just accept that it's reality.
No. It's not the lack of information that I'm asking if it scares you, but you brought up an interesting point. You said there's a lot of things that we just don't know the answers to, and you're right, but not all of those things directly affect our eternity. That's the part that would concern me.
Okay.
To not accept Jesus and have that chance of eternity and base it off of a whole lot of we don't knows, like that part's not concerning to you? Like you're willing to make that big of a gamble?
The part that concerns me is I don't know. I think we. You know what? You're gonna have to give me a minute. That's an interesting one.
Yeah.
I think that
because I mean, all of us are going to die.
Yeah, that's correct.
So I mean, there's a 50% chance I'm right and a 50% chance you're right. But I'm not afraid of not having all the answers because if I'm wrong, I'll never know it. It's Pascal's wager, and I know that's a very old wager, but it's a very accurate one. So I mean, what if the 50% is you're wrong? You're going to base your eternity off of I don't knows? That would terrify me, really Jackson,
50,
too.
50. It's not only 50-50. You're splitting it between all the other religions, too.
Well, no, because it still boils down to a creator, a designer, or evolution, natural process. Let's put aside which God you think it is. It's either an intelligent design and it's a guided process, or it's not. So that's the 50-50 I'm giving.
Okay. Can I ask you a question, Stephen?
Sure.
Do you believe in luck?
No.
Like, do you believe that there's a thing as good luck and bad luck? No?
Nope.
Okay, do you believe in there's a such thing as like good karma or bad karma?
I believe you reap what you sow.
You reap what you sow. So you do believe in some sort of like karma or luck. That like there is some external force that if you do good things will happen to you. If you do bad things will happen to you. Or do you just or is that something? No?
No, I don't believe that at all.
Okay.
I believe if I'm a jerk and I treat everybody around me like a jerk, then everyone around me is not going to like me. And eventually, if I'm ever in need of help, I'm not going to have anybody to help me. Now, if you want to equate that to karma, okay, but we would equate that to you reap what you sow.
Okay. So then my next question would be, so you don't believe in the idea of good luck and bad luck. And so
No.
I would say that, I mean, humans created the concept of good luck and bad luck to try to explain away phenomenon that were out of their control. Like I got run over and my leg is broken. That was just bad luck, right? Because it's something that's so far out of my understanding of why this could happen to me. So I try to rationalize this reason, and the rationalization is I create bad luck and good luck. So now my question to you is, how can you prove that God isn't the same thing? That us humans we're living in this, we live on this planet that we have no idea why we're here or what happened. So in order to try to rationalize our existence, we draft the idea that there is a God. Like, it seems like the same thing. I'm seeing two parallels.
Well, let me ask you this. Do you think luck would be based off of just what the universe hands you?
I just believe in cause and effects. If something happens, then naturally there's a result to that effect. There is no good luck or bad luck.
Okay, so we would be in agreement on that.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to add though that the thing with the luck, not luck. And comparing that to religion, that's kind of case by case, because I know a lot of religious people it is that sky magician dude. My dad is like that, before. And so, he believed in something, but it was just something he could control by being good, or it would get him if he was bad. It was no personal relationship. And I think you've come into a community that have felt seen, for no real reason, our life being changed, from a past time to the present time. So I agree with you that and that's religion has to be case by case and person by person. But that was my comment on that.
Fair enough. My question is though, like, did you have a leading place to go with that, Jackson, too?
What do you mean by that?
Asking me about whether or not I believed in luck or not. What,
Oh,
were
yeah,
you headed somewhere with that?
it was to ask that, like, I think we both agree that luck is a I don't know, like a supernatural concept that humans fabricated to try to rationalize certain events that perhaps didn't make sense to them at the time. And I mean, that's what karma is, just the same thing, just from a different, half of the world. So my question to you was that, like, with that in mind, that luck or karma was just created to rationalize events that we didn't understand. How can you convince me that God is not the same thing, or religion isn't the same thing? How are we
okay.
not just trying
get
to
the
rationalize this thing that we don't understand, which is our universe? So we create God to try to fill in the gaps.
So from my worldview, God was from the beginning. And as man slowly drifted away from God and the acceptance and knowledge of God, we then had to fill that empty space that we took God out of. And in order to justify or rectify bad things happening to quote unquote good people, we had to then create luck. We had to then create karma, because we took away God, which means we had to take away you reap what you sow. And as you take God out of society, you have to fill it with something. Because even in the depths of our souls, everybody knows there has to be something more out there than just random chance. Whether we admit that or not, it's a fact.
May I respond to
Go ahead, brother.
continue this flow of logic? Karma is does not imply any creator. It doesn't imply an intelligent being who will give you what you deserve. It's just a law of attraction, right? Like some law that exists out there on its own, and you attract what you do, you get it back. Well, our concept is that there is an intelligent creator who not only will give you what you deserve, but it will be also, sometimes it might look bad, but it might take you to a better place. So you might have done nothing wrong and receive something that is terrible. And if you are patient, which we aren't usually, and don't attribute it to bad luck, you might see that it ended up in a very good place. So that's how we see this. And you cannot have destiny and luck. These concepts are opposing each other. So,
yeah, I think that's why, Jackson, too, to clarify, you're just believing cause and effect. There is no karma, is no luck, is no
nothing at all.
Supernatural. Yeah.
Molecules and elements just interact, and that's just what we experience as life.
which implies a lot of luck, because
but again, I don't use the word luck, because luck is our human brain trying to rationalize something that doesn't make sense. So when I describe it as, oh, it's luck, it's me trying to personify something that doesn't make sense to me. And I mean, we personify things all the time that we don't understand. We've been doing it for ages.
but I think there is some intellectual hypocrisy on that. Right. So when one organism evolves into something new, it needs to find something to mate with. And if they find each other, it's either luck or there is something that is bringing them together.
Well, can I clarify, Jackson, too? Would you really call it more like a chance rather than luck? I see those as two different words. That luck is kind of the man-made explanation, where chance is the word we use for if one thing happens or another thing happens and it's not directed, it's a chance.
Yeah, okay, I would say that's pretty fair.
Can you define the difference between chance and luck? Because from my worldview, they're kissing cousins.
Well, I think it's to me, and so I just think that luck is more of the human explanation to explain something that happens by chance. But chance is the more, I would say, more the technical term, that if a dice comes up on 7 and you wanted a 7, well, if I wanted a 7, that was good luck, but it's still just a chance that it hit the 7.
Well,
I don't know.
let me ask the Jackson. Go ahead, Rex.
It just seems like luck in the scenario is a random event that seems to benefit the person who is talking about it. Like with the dice, you want it to be a 7. So if the randomness of that 7 is in your favor, you call it luck. When in all actuality, it's still just a random event.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, this question will be for the Jacksons, and Jackson Rowe, feel free to answer first since you've been quiet for a while.
Right.
Do you guys believe in what creationists would define as a soul? I believe you guys would call it sentience.
Just a consciousness, yeah.
Okay. What about you, Jackson, too? Do you believe in a soul or a sentience?
Well, okay. I think I need to clarify, because to me those two things are different. I would define sentience as just the state of, I mean, what we define as being human, the knowledge and acceptance of the world we live in, the ability to study and interact with it.
That's what I'm describing also.
Okay. So then, okay,
the thing that makes us human, the things that give us the ability to create charity drives and get married and have these social structures that are unlike any other thing on Earth.
Okay, then yes, I would say we have sentience. Yeah.
Okay. Can you two explain what the variables in the environment would be for us to evolve that sentience?
Stimuli, first of all.
Okay. Do you care to break it down more than that, Jackson?
I mean, it's going back all the way to when we were just running from predators, or fish in the ocean sees a shadow and darts away, to love and how we experience it today. There's a lot of steps in between that, but yeah, that would take a little while.
I don't think that's a sufficient answer. All due respect.
Well, it's not a sufficient answer. That's kind of what I'm saying.
Okay. What about you, Jackson, too? Can you explain to me what the variables in the environment would be for us to evolve this sentience, or a soul, as we would call it?
Well, I can sure as hell try. I would say, I mean, like every single animal, barring a few, exhibits some levels of sentience. The difference is just the level that they have. Like a human, I'm having a conversation with you right now. The fact that we can even communicate with verbal speech is crazy in and of itself. But like a dog can recognize the emotion of an owner just by the tone of their voice. That implies a certain level of intelligence and like knowledge and awareness of what's going on around them. So I don't think it's necessarily that, I mean, humans aren't unique in the idea of that we have this level of intelligence that allows that is sentience. Like most creatures exhibit some form of it.
I have to disagree with that. I see what you're saying, but I fundamentally disagree. The scale of the sentience, quote unquote, that we experience is so far off scale from what any other creation on Earth experiences. It's just unfathomable.
Oh, that is completely true.
I
don't
will
know.
concede this point, though. Let's just say that what you said is correct, and that dogs also have this sentience. They can pick up on each other's emotions. They're sympathetic. Great. That still doesn't explain to me what the variables in the environment would be, which is completely contingent off how we evolve, correct? So I guess my question is, why did anything on Earth evolve that sentience? What was the variable in the environment?
Well, I think that's the problem. You're asking why, which implies a reason, but the whole
Not
concept of
why. Why?
evolution,
I'm
the
not
whole
asking why. I'm asking what. What was the variable in the environment? There had to be one.
Oh, okay. So then I'll go this way. If a lot of animals show some level of intelligence, even if humans are so far above anything else, they all show some level of intelligence. Then clearly there's an evolutionary draw towards having at least some level of intelligence. And humans just lucked out on the roulette wheel, and we just put all of our points into intelligence. But it's clear by looking at any other animal that a certain level of intelligence is beneficial for their survival. Otherwise, they wouldn't have gotten to that level of intelligence. Humans just lucked out and we're the most intelligent.
Intelligence and sentience is not the same thing, though. I
I
mean,
think
they
those are
can go
hand in
hand
hand.
in
Yeah,
they
I think they
can
are
go
hand in
hand in
hand.
hand, but they're absolutely not the same. My question is, all due respect, it's still unanswered. I'm asking you guys what the variable in the environment was to cause anything on Earth, even a snail. Let's say a snail has sentience. What caused anything on Earth? Take humans out of the equation completely. What was the variable in the environment that caused absolutely any creation you want to pick out on a dartboard to develop a soul or a sentience? I mean, these are questions you guys have to answer us if you're wanting us to leave the creation model and embrace the evolution model. We have all the answers to our faith, and you're asking us to give that up and embrace your faith, but you guys don't have any answers.
Stephen, can I ask a clarifying question?
Yeah, go ahead, Rex.
When you're saying sentient, I posted some stuff in the comments. So I mean, the word can just mean aware. So it seems like you're asking something more than just what makes things aware.
I'm trying to use your guys' language, and I know a lot of evolutionists, a lot of atheists don't believe in the concept of a soul. I absolutely do. And I think that humans are absolutely unique in that way, that we have a soul. We have that something that makes my walking flesh Stephen. I'm trying to call it sentient so you guys can kind of be on the same page, but that's what I'm asking. The thing that makes Stephen, the thing that gives me my personality, the things that makes me attracted to beautiful women, what were the variables in the environment that made Stephen develop that soul?
So it sounds like you're asking what makes things conscious.
Is my Wi-Fi messing up, or is it his?
You sound fine.
Yeah, you sound fine, Jackson.
Okay.
I mean, any of you can
You
answer
broke up
it if
there
you
for a
have
minute for me,
an
Steve.
answer. Oh, okay. So just the fact that we have souls, humans have souls, you guys would call it sentience or awareness, whatever you would call it to equate to what we describe as a human soul. What was the variable in the environment for us to evolve that? Because everything in the evolutionary path has as you described it, Jackson, too, a cause and effect. Something in the environment caused us to evolve according to your model. So my question is, the biggest question in the world, the thing that makes humans individuals, what caused us to evolve that?
Then I would say, oh, okay. How about the, in my opinion, the greatest gift that evolution has granted humans is the ability to vocalize speech and to have very articulate speech. Uh, and I mean, most scientists believe that like that was a great push to our like level of intelligence. The fact that I can think ideas in my head and then thus communicate them to you, and that resulted in us creating written history. So each generation that came after the next became smarter and smarter because they had the same knowledge that the previous generation came with. So I think the ability for us to vocalize speech and communicate with another ideas that no other animal can do slowly led to us having this ability of a higher function of now I understand what the other person wants, and I understand what I want, and I understand how to communicate that to another person, and then I understand how all these interactions work. And so it was like an immensely gradual change over time, but the slow development of a vocalized language led to us having a higher capacity for intelligence because we can communicate ideas to one another.
See, from your model, I think you're putting the cart far before the horse, right? Because the ability to vocalize what we're feeling is a product of us wanting to express what we already experience. So we can't then say that the vocalization that we've developed is what pushed us into that quote unquote sentience that's backwards. We develop speech to express what we're feeling, thinking, and going through. So I still don't feel like my question's been sufficiently answered. And until I can get these questions answered, there's no way I'm even going to consider giving up on a creation model because it makes sense and I have answers. I don't want to give up my answers for I don't know. And not only in I don't know, but you guys have a plethora of I don't knows. And honestly, when it comes to salvation and eternity, that's freaking terrifying. That's a lot of hoping on not a lot of answers.
But you are perfectly fine with some I don't know, Stephen. Because you would say that God breathed life into dirt to make humans, right? Well, how did he do that? Well, you don't know. But you're fine with that.
I mean, I know how to breathe. So, I mean, what part of that do I not know?
Yeah, but you breathing doesn't result in life being created. So how did God do it?
Well, God is a supernatural being who is outside of time, space, and matter.
Oh, so we don't know how he works. He just works, right?
No,
we don't know.
We do
he just
know,
works.
It says that he breathed life into the nostrils of man. I mean, what part of that do you not grasp?
Oh, well, then I'll just say that evolution created humans, and what part of that do you not grasp? Like, it just happened.
Okay, right, but you don't have a starting place, and we do.
You're personifying.
The starting place would be we'd be here for 4 hours dictating from the beginning of the creation of the universe to now, and how slowly over time, like what is it, 4 billion years this Earth has existed as a hunk of rock. Over 4 billion years, somehow like life emerged.
The thing is, I gave you an out to skip the 4 hours, and typically I don't do that. I usually don't get people the chance to get past the jump from ape to human, but I'm giving a lot of concessions tonight. I asked you to skip that 4-hour conversation and just tell me where life started. And again, your answer was, I don't know. And my question to you is, it doesn't terrify you that your future eternity is based off of so many I don't knows? What if you're wrong?
Well, I mean,
based off of any of this. I mean, I think regardless, everybody has a shot at heaven if there is one. So
I'd admit your fear, Stephen, because I assume you don't spend nights afraid of Allah punishing you, right? Because you just know that is not it's not a correct thought process. It's not a true thing. So you're not afraid of it. I'm not afraid of suffering at hell because it doesn't exist.
Man, you give me so many ideas for more shows. Sunday, we're talking about the design and the incredible design of everything. But no, those are very good questions. I would add on that with the two possibilities that there's an intelligent designer, or it happened by random unguided processes, that a creator, that is an explanation to something being made. But to say that the complexity we see came into existence by a natural process is illogical, because a thing that is caused can't be created by itself. So that would be my answer to your question of how did God do something? He's a creator, and he hasn't told me. Come Sunday, I'm going to talk from the perspective of a creator. What time, Stephen?
It is 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
And hopefully I'll be there and remember. You got my number now, so you can
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, there are some questions I can't answer from Christianity. For instance, I cannot define for you exactly the components of the Trinity, and I concede that point. However, I can tell you the explanation, our narrative for what caused Stephen to have a soul. It's simple. I was made in my Father's image. I was created, and he designed me before I was even in my mother's womb. So I have that answer for where the origins of life started. but you guys don't have that. And you're asking me to give up my knowledge for your I don't knows. And that just seems humorous.
I would even go towards the more naturalistic side of life. By was brought up. What was it? The new the new physics. The what is that? Help me out, guys. The new even smaller particles that are bouncing around. Anyway, quantum physics. Thank you. My brain worked. And that, so the more evidence we see in science, things are getting more complex. The reason, say like a Dawkins, we talked earlier, said that it just appeared that biology was created for a purpose, but it's just appearance, not reality, is the fact that it was always said, well, the creator would be just adding more complexity to whatever cause there is. But now that we go farther out in the universe, we're seeing more stuff, more complexity. We go smaller. Now we're into the quantum stuff that's even, more complex. So as the material universe gets more and more complex, it actually is giving evidence for then a designer, an intelligent designer creator. Because you had mentioned, Jackson, too, I think about something about being a chance by luck. And so that is something we can throw into the equation of what is the odds. And now we have like the genetics just was in my lifetime, now maybe a little later, I'm not that old, but DNA and that type of stuff. And now we got epigenetics that are controlling the DNA. So the more we see, the more complex it is. The more complexity we see in nature calls for a more complex cause. Is what I'm going to be talking about on Sunday. Come by, guys. I love talking to you guys.
Well, if you guys want, we can jump into a more pleasant topic that I find fascinating. I've recently discovered an article where they have genetically modified chickens to be a host for the resurrection of a dodo bird. Do you people think that that is ethical? Honest question.
I think so, because we caused the extinction of the dodo. So, but if we're like bringing back dinosaurs, I don't know about that one.
Yeah, you don't want a Jurassic Park scenario? Sounds great.
The movie has never turned out well in the movie.
What about you, Jackson, too? Is it ethical?
I don't know if I don't know. I'd have to sit and stew on that one for a while, because I would just argue that the scientific prospect of being able to like bring a species back into existence just because we had some DNA lying around is so fascinating that I kind of just want it to happen. Like, that's such an interesting concept and idea. I kind of want to skip over the ethics, because it's just like I want to see that happen. I think about all the potential species that we could just bring back, like that could be ecologically beneficial to our planet.
What do you think the ecological benefits from resurrecting a dodo bird would be?
Oh, I have no idea. I think this is a stepping stone to potential futures. Like, it may just be the dodo now because it's what we have access to and it's what we're working on. But in the future, it could be some extinct, predator that, I don't know, ate mosquitoes, because those mosquitoes are assholes and we all hate them, right? So there's some big predator that ate mosquitoes, and so we could resurrect that one, and thus now we have mosquito control, like natural mosquito control. It's the idea that in the future it could be beneficial, not necessarily that this one instance is.
Well, dodos were beneficial to the island of Mauritius. There's a tree now that can't reproduce, or I think it already went extinct, actually. One of the two. Because it would pass through the gut of a dodo, and that would cause it to germinate, and now that tree can't reproduce on its own anymore. Yeah.
No, more complexity with the symbiotic relationships. But I would say the problem is, because I would go for it all, and it's because it's probably going to come anyway, but it's the evil in the world that has taken anything from gunpowder to whatever we create and turn it into an evil. And that's the problem, is not actually is certain things ethical. It's just humans do things for their own gratification, and something that could be good usually is turned into something evil.
Yeah, I can see that. That's fair. I don't know. We've been genetically modifying organisms since the dawn of agriculture. We would, take the plants that produce the most harvest and reseed those, and then all the ones that didn't, we just let them die. This is just like a more advanced version of that. We're just messing with genetics. I mean, each one of us picks our partner that we marry in life, and we have children with that partner. That's a form of artificially quelling and creating genetic diversity. So I don't know. This is just like a super advanced version of that in my mind.
Well, I guess to go further into the ethical question, do you gentlemen think it would be ethical to resurrect the dodo bird, considering that the niches in the environment have absolutely changed since they roamed the earth? Like, wouldn't that be unethical to take something out of its natural environment and then resurrect it in a totally foreign environment just for our own thrills and kills?
Maybe.
Yeah, there you have a pretty good argument.
But I want to see one.
But maybe if we just make like 2 or 3, and we put them in some zoos that are like specifically climate controlled and designed to be the exact environment they lived in when they existed, and then we're happy. We just have 3 of them. Then we can be happy.
What was the exact environment that they lived in?
I don't know. I don't know how many years ago they lived. I don't actually know the answer. 1500? Well then, so it's probably pretty similar. It's probably pretty similar to what we have today then.
I'll tell you what, the two biggest phrases I hear from evolutionists is I don't know and I don't know.
Who's going to tell them that was one phrase?
No, I was just repeating it because you guys do it so often.
I just thought it was more Christianity math, like 1 + 1 + 1 = 3. Or wait, 1.
No, it's 3 nails and 1 cross equal 1 God. That's Christian math.
No, equals 3 nails plus 1 cross equals 4 given.
That's it. I was homeschooled though, so you'll have to forgive me.
Yeah.
Good job, Achilles. That Greece public school system.
Guys, I'm gonna bail. Even my brain is lagging. It's 6 a.m. morning. Is the sun is coming up, and I'm a vampire. The sun cannot see me, so you don't want my skin melting, right?
Yeah, but now we're equal on the mental capacity if you're halfway gone or 3/4. Come on now. Give me a break.
My brother, I hope we've given you enough ideas for your show. I actually didn't get some question answered, and we're not doing this because we enjoy bringing people who believe in evolution into a dead end because we're enjoying it, just to prove to them that it's a religion of death that requires a lot of death for you to be born, and it only leads to death. But if there is a creator and he is a loving creator, then he must have, if he created everything, he must have found a way to give you some instructions. And if you end up reading the instructions, you'll see that he's making it very easy for us. It's not hard, it's not complicated. He's not the God of confusion. And there are questions, we have questions, but there are no I don't knows. They are all there. And the more we read, the more we understand. So I want to thank everyone because this was a very respectful discussion, and I've been missing those, that we can discuss different sides and not fight and having to kick people away. So kudos to all in the panel, to the 2 Jacksons and Rex. Dan and Steven, you know me, I know you. I love you guys both. And I'm giving you all an army salute, which, if you give me a minute, I can actually find it. I have
Achilles,
it right
my brother from another mother. Have a good night, sir.
All right.
Yeah, take care.
Have a great night, everyone. I'll see you next time.
Nice chatting with you guys.
So, are you guys okay with the questions about the environments and niches in the environments? Because I find that fascinating, and I have a few more questions if you guys are open to it.
Sure. I don't have a great background in all this, but I can try my best.
No, and hey, I appreciate you guys trying to give me any answer. So, and thank you very much. I guess my first question would be, what would be the niche in the environment that would cause lust, right? Like we know that a dog sees another dog and thinks instinctively, I need to hit that. Humans have the same instinct. You see something of the opposite sex and you automatically are attracted to it. You have that lustful inclination. What would be the niche in the environment to cause lust that would then lead to that act and then allow procreation?
They don't procreate; they go extinct. So probably that makes sense to have that feeling like you need to reproduce.
But you would have to first develop that feeling to know the difference, right? Otherwise, you just stumbled upon it by accident, and you're like, "Hey, this helps us reproduce."
By the way, you got a guy saluting on the screen still.
He's still going. He's still going.
I'm so sorry, guys.
You pay him or?
Yeah, he still can't.
It's per salute.
All right. So you guys can tackle that question if you'd like. And then give you full disclosure, my next question would be the jump from lust to love. What were the variables in the environment to cause us to jump from that need to reproduce, which you could equate to lust, and then jump to love, which is an emotional exchange? Like, what would the niche in the environment be to develop that?
Well, I don't think love was due to a niche in the environment. I think that's a fault of, or maybe not a fault. Maybe I would describe it as a benefit, but a benefit of human intelligence. I think lust is. I mean, you see, every single animal on this planet has to reproduce in some form or fashion, right? And there's different motivators for this to occur. I mean, for humans, sex feels good. Like that's a motivator for us to reproduce, to want to do that. And so one of the motivators for humans to reproduce is we have an instinctual desire to want to reproduce. If you, I forgot which psychologist it was, but one of them created the pyramid, the hierarchies of needs pyramid, a hierarchy of needs pyramid. And on the bottom rung of the pyramid is supposed to be like the most fundamental ones. And the fundamental ones are survival and reproduction, because every animal is geared towards, I need to reproduce to carry on my genetic line. So
I guess my issue with that would be, though, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the entire point of evolution is self-preservation, right? That kind of fits into survival of the fittest. Things on Earth want to survive, and it's not beneficial to fall in love. As a matter of fact, in most cases, it's devastating eventually. So why would we develop love when we could have just been satisfied with the act of lust?
Oh, thank you, Phantom. Yeah, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that was called. But I'll address your question. That's the part where I think that love, the concept of love, wasn't like an evolutionary creation. That was us humans, after gaining the intelligence to understand what's going on around us and what's happening. We started to see more animalistic behaviors that our predecessors had as being animalistic behaviors. And we think we're special. Humans think we're special. So we tried to elevate ourselves above those animalistic tendencies. That's why we suppress our lust. That's why we hold back emotions like anger and frustration. That's why we have laws, because people inherently want to do things that aren't productive and are animalistic. So love is our way of combating lust. It was a creation of humans to be like, no, we're not animals. We don't just screw and bang everything that we see. We're above that. So we pick partners. We pick lifetime partners. And that's where the idea of love is it's like a branch off of trying to combat the idea of lust.
That counters the human instinct of survival, though. Humans don't want to get hurt. We don't want to experience pain. And love, half the time, equates to pain. It equates to hurt. So with the evolutionary mindset, we should have skipped love completely due to that need for self-preservation. We don't need love in order to reproduce. We can be fruitful and multiply without an emotional attachment. So if we're going off of intelligence, why would we subjugate ourselves to love at all? That doesn't seem intelligent to me.
But I got to get going because I'm falling asleep over here. I'm woke up at like 4 a.m.
I'm sorry we bored you, Jackson.
No, it's not because of you guys. I woke up really early.
Hey,
No, that's
yeah, come back anytime you want, Jackson. And if you ever host like a live panel, definitely shoot me an invite. I would love to come hang out with you, man.
Yeah, for sure. All right, I'll see you guys later.
All right, take it easy, man.
All right, see you.
All right, so Jackson, and you have the floor, sir.
Yeah, I guess it's all me now. Oh,
well,
backed into a
we'll
little
go
corner.
easier on. And technically, you do have Rex. Rex is still on the panel, and he can help defend you.
All right, I'll tag you in if I need you. Where were we?
So my question is, with the instinct to survive and not subjugate ourselves to pain, why did we ever incorporate love into the whole situation?
That's a good one. Well, I think we probably both agree on this one that the where the idea of marriage generally came from was like it was rooted in like in religious practice of the idea of marriage and the idea of like one partner. Different religions have different spins on that. Like I know Islam believes that marriage could be between several different partners that a man could take, but under like Judeo-Christian, it's one man, one woman. So I think culturally speaking, we've been like hardwired to believe that this is the correct way. And you see, I mean, there's tons of examples of humans not acting in their own self-interest. I mean, suicide exists, for God's sakes. Clearly, humans are capable of doing things that don't benefit
But
them at all.
I have to counter that, though, because my brother is a victim of suicide, and it was absolutely out of self-preservation. He was trying to escape that emotional pain. And it's that emotional pain that people are constantly trying to run from. So again, to circle back around it, it makes no sense in my small brain that we would ever open ourselves up to that. And also, I can understand that over time, it just become part of society and it becomes part of culture, that love is what separates us from Neanderthals, but that doesn't explain how it started. Why would a creation or a being like a human ever skip lust and jump to love when it's threatening to our emotional state? It counters self-preservation, which is the entire concept that makes evolution work.
I don't think it counters self-preservation because me deciding to date a woman and potentially it falling through doesn't result in my death. There's no self-preservation involved. The only thing we're talking about here is emotional stability. It does threaten emotional stability, which I mean I would argue that the subconscious drive for a mate is significantly stronger than the potential emotional ramifications of trying to find that mate. And that's why even after time and time again people get their hearts broken, they still strive to find someone new because there's that deep rooted subconscious desire that you must reproduce, you must find a mate.
Okay, so do you think that humans have something in us that allows us to open up to love in a way that ducks don't? Like, are humans different than ducks?
Oh, certainly so, yeah.
Okay, why? Like, what was the niche in the environment that helped us adapt to the concept of opening up to love, but not ducks?
I think it's our level of intelligence. I mean, you and I both agree because we agreed on this earlier that humans are so far above any other animal in terms of intelligence. And
Oh
part
yeah,
of
we're a special creation,
Oh, yeah.
unlike anything else in the universe.
Well, uh, but I would say that that level of intelligence, although survivally speaking, it's immensely benefit. I mean, the things that human hands have crafted are truly fantastic. Uh, but it comes with the ramification of understanding who you are and your role in society and how like overwhelming that can be in some instances. Uh, and one of those is I can empathize with people. I can hear about your experiences, and I can go, "That's truly terrible." I can connect with you on a level that a duck can't. The duck just goes, "You're of the opposite sex. Let's make some babies." But a human can emotionally connect at a further level due to our intelligence.
Okay, so what was the variable in the environment that caused humans to obtain this intelligence, but not the duck?
Random chance. There wasn't. I don't think there. Oh, actually, sorry. I don't think we'll ever have the answer to that. Of there, there probably was a specific variable, but I'll never have the answer to that. All I know is that I mean, we see time and time again certain organisms adapting to their environments and changing. And so at some point, humans must have entered some sort of environment where it was beneficial to communicate with one another. And that's the result that occurred.
That seems like a whole lot of speculation for a worldview. I just have to level with you, Jackson.
I don't know. I don't think it's necessarily. I mean, we see evolution all the time. Like the problem. I mean, we're dealing right
We
now.
don't, though. I mean, we don't see evolution ever. It's unobservable. Whether it's true or not, we'll have to put that to the side. But it's absolutely unobservable.
Well, you don't believe
we can't observe
David.
it. I do.
I mean, how many bears were on the ark?
Well, they're an unclean animal, so it'd be 2 pairs.
Okay, so how many
species?
How many different species of bear? Do you believe it was one bear kind that then speciated? So we should be able to.
Wait a minute. You're talking about microevolution, which is a variation in a kind. I've already believed that the bear exists, but the bear in 4,400 years has not turned into anything else but another type of bear, which is a product of its environment. But can you show me a bear that has turned into anything other than a bear, even over millions of years?
What do you mean by
showing? You can't, because it's unobservable. You can't observe that.
You can observe it through the fossil record and the DNA.
You don't, though. You don't. You don't have the transitional fossils that you claim. What you have is another type or kind of bear. We have no fossils that help connect them.
What we have is a set of evidence where you don't find it sufficient, but most people do.
Well, that's because the evidence is inconclusive and not complete, right? You're showing me something at A, and then you're showing me something at Z, and you're assuring me that all the other letters are there, but you can't show me the letters. I just have to take your word for it that there's something between A and Z. That's not enough for me to form a worldview. To me, that takes more faith than me believing that Christ is God in the flesh and he came to die for my sins. I'm not an evolutionist because I don't have enough faith.
But you're conflating the two things, right? Obviously, a majority of Christians believe in evolution and also believe that we are special.
A majority of Christians absolutely don't believe in evolution. If you're counting Catholics, which I don't consider Catholics to be Christian, I consider Catholics to be Catholic. Yes, the majority of Catholics believe in evolution, but the majority of Christians do not believe in evolution. The vast majority of us still hold to the creation model because we have sufficient evidence to prove our worldview. And when we push comes to shove, all we get from you, well, I don't want to say all we get from you, that's an unfair statement, but a large amount of the answers we get from you are, we don't know.
Okay, I mean, we could give you an unsatisfactory answer like natural process, which it just falls into the same unsatisfactory answer that you give us, which is God. It is a answer, but it has no explanatory power.
All right, so do you guys do believe that we're related to orangutans?
Somehow through the genus and phylum tree, yeah, we are somehow related to them.
How many evolutionary jumps have we found between the orangutan and the humanoid that's directly behind us?
Oh God, too many? How, like, there's been a new development in finding like a new ancestor for the hominid species. Like there's like a new one found like every decade or so. We're probably up to like 50 now or something. And there's probably even more than that, but we don't have fossilized records of those. We only have the ones that we found, which there's only 50 of them.
To the best of my knowledge, it was 14 specimens, but I'm even willing to concede there's 50. Do you really believe that from orangutan to humans, 50 is enough?
No, not at all. The problem is that not every single animal that has ever lived turns into a fossil. We have a very limited, pool to draw from. Of there's only 50 in existence, and all we can do is go, all right, this is a human has 100% human DNA. This one fossil that we found has 99.99999% of human DNA. This other one has 99.99998% of human DNA, and you can trace it all the way back to the orangutan, which has 99.99997% of the same DNA. And so you can kind of see that there's obviously a buildup, right, of slowly over time these creatures are getting closer and closer to humans in terms of DNA composition. Now, if you want to argue that that doesn't mean anything, then I don't think I can convince you. But I feel like you can pretty obviously look at that and see that there's some sort of chronological events occurring for those creatures to have existed.
Oh no, I believe in a common designer, and I believe when you have a good design, you repetitively keep using it. Not to quote my favorite creationist, Dr. Kent Hovind, but I'll go ahead and create him. That's only evidence for a common designer. So we have an engine. An engine is a very good system, and we use it in all types of vehicles. Every vehicle that operates has a functioning engine, and that's because it's a good design. So obviously, I need to open and close my hands. So do monkeys. So God used the exact same design. That doesn't mean we're related. And the fact that you conceded that we only have 50 of the specimens, which I think is way overboard. I think it's closer to 14, but we'll say 50. And that you said we don't have the rest because not every animal that dies turns into a fossil. You're actually admitting to me that your theory is unprovable because we don't have the whole evidence. We don't have A to Z. You're asking me to accept a whole lot of nothing.
I guess I would Uno reverse card and say, I mean, you can't prove there's a God. You can tell me that there's this book that someone wrote that supposedly was written by a person who spoke to God, but you can't you can't point in a direction and go, there's God. You can't prove to me that that's true.
I can though, because that's absolutely a guided process. Whether you think the world is 4+ billion years old or 6,000 years old, it's absolutely a guided process. It would be too many coincidences and too much chance and, to coin what we were talking about earlier, way too much luck. Like, it takes more faith to believe evolution works without being a guided process than it takes to believe that life came into existence through a guided process.
But then that's not proof. You're just saying that this is confusing and it seems unlikely, therefore God. That's not proof. That's just you telling me what you believe, like what you personally believe. You believe that these things are so complex and so confusing. It must have been created by someone. That's not proof. That's just what you believe.
I'm saying that it has to be God, and that's proof because it had to be a guided process. For instance, take Earth. Earth is in a Goldilocks zone. If we were an inch to the left, we'd freeze to death. An inch to the right, we'd burn up. That can't be chance, right? We're also one of the youngest planets, but we're the most evolved. It goes into the what is it? The Fermi's paradox, right?
Yeah,
other
Fermi
planets
paradox.
are much older than us. We should observe some form of evolution on some other rock, and we don't. We're it. And we can kind of chuckle when we say we're the smartest and most unique thing in the universe. No offense, but at the end of the day, if we're looking at evidence, we are absolutely the most unique thing in the universe. We're the only place in the universe where we actually observe life. To me, that points to a guided process. There's too much chance. Even Einstein said mathematically, it doesn't make sense.
Well, I mean, if you're, I don't know, if your universe existed for trillions of years, I feel like statistically speaking, life would be likely at some point, right? Trillions of years. That's such a big number that we can't even remotely comprehend how long a period of time that is.
So we got into the universe. This is one of my favorites. Okay, let's get into the Big Bang. I love this. Thank you guys for being here today. All right, so
yeah, this is fun.
Jackson. Yeah, Big Bang. All right. Is it the start of the universe, origins of the universe, or is it the rapid expansion? I never find two evolutionists that agree.
Wait, sorry, let's list this all off again. You're asking, is it A, B, or C?
No, I'm sorry. So let me clarify. Okay, is the Big Bang the explanation of origins of the universe, or is it the explanation for the expansion of said universe?
Oh, I think it can be both.
So you think the start of the universe was also the expansion of the universe?
I mean, if you explode an object, you can agree that there was a point when the object wasn't exploded. It was pre-explosion. And then you can also agree that the explosion is causing a wave of an expansion of mass. So those two things can exist at the same time.
Okay. What caused it? What was the variable in the non-existing environment that caused the explosion?
The variable in the non-existent environment that caused the explosion?
Right, because you said at the very beginning that, everything is a cause and effect, right? So something caused the effect of the Big Bang, but if nothing was in existence yet, what caused the Big Bang, right? So what I'm saying is the universe is just sitting there smoking a cigarette, watching Braveheart reruns, and then all of a sudden, poof, rapid expansion, explosion. What caused it?
Well, the problem with that is, I mean, general relativity only explains it only works when we have the metric of space and time, but it falls apart when you try to go before the Big Bang because that is before space and time. So mathematically speaking, we have no answers to that question. But I don't know, the same way that we're slowly working the math out in quantum mechanics and slowly uncovering more and more and more and more, we might at some point figure out new math that relates and gives us that answer. But with our current understanding of the universe, we have no idea.
So correct me if I'm wrong, and again, I'm sorry if it's coming off disrespectful. I honestly don't mean it that way, but it sounds like you just said in a very fancy way, you don't know.
Oh yeah, no, I don't. I think if a scientist claims that they know what happened before the Big Bang, they're lying out their ass because no one does.
So let me follow the trail that you've given me tonight, my friend.
Okay.
So we don't know what caused the Big Bang. We don't know if it was the beginning of the universe or the rapid expansion. You believe it's possibly both, so I'll give you that point. So we also don't know what was the first life on Earth. We don't know what the intermediate species between... I mean, are you seeing the pattern here? Like, your whole religion is built off of I don't knows. That should scare the heck out of you, Jackson. Like, an eternity is weighing in the balance, and almost everything you guys have told me tonight, whether it's in a fancy way or not, is I don't know. Like, that would terrify the crap out of me.
Well, I mean, yeah, but the humans that existed, you know, when Benjamin Franklin traveled to France and showed them this fancy thing that he's discovered, where if you lay a piece of wool on top of a resin rod and spin the rod, you generate electricity. He didn't know how it worked at all, but he was fascinated by the fact that it did exist. And only later on did we figure out that this is an actual phenomenon that we can predict with math and equations and calculations. So I think that we're just in this inflection point in time where we don't have the answers to all these things, but it seems foolish to be like, oh, but we'll never know in the future. Because that happened plenty of times in the past where we were proven wrong. We always thought things were magic, and it turned out they never were.
See, I don't think you can get an origins of the universe without magic. I don't see how you can have no time, no space, no matter suddenly explode, which you have to have time, space, and matter to happen. Even from the very get-go, from the very beginning, you guys have no answers. You can't give a sufficient answer for even the start of the universe, much less life on Earth.
But Stephen, I could bombard you with questions about Christianity that you would not be able to answer.
Shoot,
Does that
go
mean
ahead.
Christianity is not correct?
Well, give me your questions, but give me one at a time and let me have time to answer. When will Christ return?
Sure.
According to my calculations, I would say sometime in the next 10 to 300 years.
Great, but throughout history, the church fathers would have said that he already returned in AD 70. So my point is,
only a handful of the church fathers would say he returned in.
Not by a handful, you mean a huge majority? Then yes.
No, I mean a handful, as in a small minority. And
okay.
I am a studier of church history, so I can confidently say that. If you can show me evidence to counter that, then I'll accept it. But you can't because it doesn't exist.
Sure, I can go through a list of all the prominent church fathers starting. We can go. We can see what their opinion was. I'd be happy to do that with you. And I think you'll find that until around the 1500s, people had this idea that Christ had returned, and it was necessary for their particular brand of theology. And modern theology does not reflect. But again, my point is, not knowing something does not falsify the rest of what you do know. So you do know, at least from your worldview, that accepting Christ into your heart guarantees your salvation because of his sacrifice, right? So any other thing that you don't know about that faith does not invalidate what you believe or what you believe you know.
Here's my issue with what you're saying. You're telling me that the top of a pyramid is designed in this way, but you cannot tell me what the foundation of the pyramid is. You have no explanation for the base of the pyramid, but you want me to believe that even though there's no evidence for the base of this pyramid, somehow the pyramid makes sense. And I don't see that.
So are you aware that hot water freezes faster than cold water?
Yes, I've heard that.
We have no idea why that happens, but you accept that it does happen.
Sure. It's science. It's observable. It's testable. It's demonstratable.
Great. And so are many features of evolution, but you just bombard them with
because almost everyone I've asked you tonight, I got answered with, I don't know.
Well, I didn't answer because you ask questions, that we don't have a certain answer for. So we're going to answer, I don't know.
No,
because
that's
we're
the whole
honest
thing,
interlocutors.
Rex. That's the whole thing, Rex. I didn't, though. I didn't try to intentionally set you guys up at all. I picked random names out of the hat, and to every random name, your response was, I don't know.
But I've heard you ask many of these random questions multiple times because I've been in your room lots.
Right. And out of all the intelligent evolutionists that I've asked this to random times, every time it's, I don't know. That's my point, Rex. Even the greatest minds in your religion don't know. That should freaking terrify you. The greatest minds of your religion have no answers. And the
Not
answers
yet.
they do have are made off built-up assumptions that are unprovable. This is
Everything
my whole point, guys.
All of life's philosophies are built on assumptions that are unprovable. Absolutely.
Not to the extent
you
of
okay?
evolution.
Did we lose him?
I think we may have
Everything
lost
you
Rex.
believe
Whoa.
is built on assumption.
You're back.
And he's gone again.
My question. Yeah.
Rex, I promise I'm not trying to derail you, Rex, but your signal's going in and out, brother.
Yeah, it's StreamYards. Like, my signal is great for everything, but whenever I log into StreamYards, it goes to crap every time. I don't know why.
Well, if you hang on a couple more billion years, it should fix itself, right?
Well, technology will certainly advance, so I agree.
Wow. I don't know if it's advanced. It's got more technical, but I don't know if it's got better.
So let me try repeating what I was saying. I guess my point is that all logic, all human intellect is built on unverifiable assumptions. In fact, when we do mathematics, we start with 18 or 19 postulates, things that we cannot prove to be absolutely certain, but if we don't accept them, mathematics would not work.
Here's where I disagree with you. Even with my worldview, I can somewhat explain the Big Bang. God said, let there be light. And then he stretched out the heavens. There's my explanation for the Big Bang. But you don't concede that there's a creator. You're conceding only to random chance. But you can't even get past the Big Bang because there's no random chance where there's no time, space, or matter, right?
Well, then let me ask you this. If I say a magical frog wizard created everything, like he said, let there be light, am I suddenly now completely right? Because now I have a creator, my magical frog wizard man.
It would at least give
now?
you something. It would at least give you a foundation.
Okay, so
but
now,
it's very hard to build a skyscraper without a foundation.
Okay, well,
you're
here's
asking me to jump to the 13th floor, but I want to know what the foundation's built of.
The foundation would be mathematics. I mean, we have equations that talk us through what happens.
Mathematics is not a foundation, Rex. Mathematics is used to explain a foundation. It's used to help us understand a foundation, but the mathematics is not the foundation. It's an explanation for. Come on, buddy.
What do you mean? I don't understand your point. Please walk me through why you don't think mathematics are
okay, so tell me this.
Acceptable answers to questions.
Tell me, Rex, mathematically, what caused the Big Bang? That's my point. That's my point.
For a cause. I can talk you through. I can't talk you through it because I'm a dummy when it comes to math. That's why I went to Bible college.
I love you guys. Look, I'm not tucking tail and running, so I'm sorry if it seems that way, but we're going on 2 hours and 42 minutes, and I'm outgunned and outmanned, and I've just been beaten up in this conversation. So I think I'm going to call it, but we're going to start doing these weekly again, most likely, and I definitely want both of you guys to come back.
Yeah, I'd love to come back.
All right. Well, thank you guys for coming to hang out at Proverbs Guys Ministries. We do love you, and I appreciate you guys being able to come on here and us having a respectful conversation. I think the audience gets a lot from that.
Hey, Stephen, can you talk to me for like 30 or 40 seconds off air before you go?
Yeah, absolutely, man.
All right. Peace out, guys.
All right. Have a good night, everybody.